Thursday, April 6th, 2026. We have a public hearing and that'll be at 6:30, so we'll pop back up on the dais behind ourselves to conduct that public hearing. That has to be conducted at 6:30 p.m. In the meantime, we have a few things we can get done before the public hearing. First, being the board to act on the February 19th and March 19th draft minutes. So, so Laura and Barbara were absent, so it's myself, Gil, and Reed to vote.
Make a motion to approve both minutes?
Well, just February.
Oh, just February, sorry. I'll make a motion to approve February 19th, 2026 minutes.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
That's approved. And then next up are the minutes from March 19th. Gil and myself were absent, so.
I just have two comments on page 6 of 9. Under the Myrtle, we talked about it. It said, LC stated that an enforceable snow removal schedule needs to be in place. And then there's one other comment somewhere.
Yeah, I just got to, I had to go and delete the graphic again.
Oh, on page 4 of 9.
I'm hoping that it was with us before.
Next to my initials, stated the public amenity should be for the cross-out project, benefit of uptown development.
Right, still not right. Right.
Thank you, Laura, and that's it from me.
Oh, I don't have anything.
I'm sorry, Laura, where is that?
Page 4, under the Baxter, next to my initials, so like 4 line
Oh, I
at the
see,
bottom.
okay, can you just repeat yourself, please?
So where the word project is, cross it out and write benefit of uptown.
Thank you.
That was it.
Okay, can I get a motion to approve the minutes as amended?
I make the motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Minutes are approved as amended. Next planning board meeting, May 21st, 2026. Dan, staff updates? Are there?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So, hi guys. So yeah, I guess we'll begin by everybody knows sitting behind me is Ara, who is our new intern for building planning. So, other updates going on. I know we've mentioned to you all the environmentally sensitive lands code in the past, how we wanted to establish codes to make greater protections for wetlands, steep sloped areas, high groundwater. So we've talked with the administration recently. Oh, thank you. And Josephine and I have spoken, and we're gonna try to have a draft prepared for you all for the May agenda of the planning board. So we're hoping during that time, if we have it prepared, we're gonna circulate the draft and hopefully maybe have a discussion in front of you all. We want to actually give copies to CAC, Citizens Commission on Erosion. I always mess up the wording.
Yeah.
As well as the planning board for your guys' input. So that's something that's hopefully coming down the pipeline, and maybe we can review as part of the staff update going forward.
So that actually segues into a question I had about one of our applications tonight that was required to do a full environmental assessment because it was on a steep slope, I guess. Is there a way, and all the answers were no, so is there a way in the code that you're developing to try and help out our village residents who are on steep slopes to avoid having to go through that really arduous process?
Yeah, so I think there's two things, right? There's the code that says retaining walls on a same slope over 6 feet in height or a type 1 action.
Okay.
And there's any action which constitutes lands involved with where more than 30% of the property is consistent of slopes 20% or greater as a type 1 action.
Okay.
Those are two provisions that we were hoping to potentially remove and or either reduce because of the impact it's having. Having all these homeowners go for retaining
Right, well,
walls.
because anyone who has a retaining wall that high is obviously on a slope that, large. I'm just hoping we could try and
that's
do
the goal.
something.
The goal is to make those potentially not type 1 actions. So I understand why it's there.
What's the state threshold?
The
What's the
state-
state threshold for
The state
type
actually,
1 on slopes? Is there anything?
there's every local municipality can adopt their own type 1 actions beyond the states. The states, I don't
You
believe,
don't get into it.
yeah, that's more of a Port Jeff Village requirement. So that's why we're looking at it again. We do want to hopefully either remove them or work with council and see what we can do to mitigate it, because it's also going to have an impact on us because we have so many applications that now constitute type 1 actions. It's very difficult for homeowners. It's very difficult for staff. We do want to remove that.
So there's going to be more because a lot of those retaining walls were built 25, 30, 40 years ago and they're getting to that age.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so anything that would be caught by a full environmental form should just be in the code. So that if you're on a steep slope, you must do X, Y, Z, right? Instead of having to do the full form, right?
Thank you. Yeah, no,
Something.
and we agree with that.
I mean, obviously we had a reason
Of course.
that we made them type 1 actions. I guess what I'm trying to say is whatever remediation we would have looking for, we should just roll into the code and not have to do the full environmental. That's my 2 cents.
What becomes difficult with me, because we always talk about percentages and stuff like that. And I always think I, as a homeowner, would just not recognize what a 20% slope looks like. And how do we call you and say, hey, can you look at my property and see if it's a 20%, or do we get a surveyor or something like that? But that's what I have a hard time with is it says 20%, I'm going, oh God, what's 20%?
So is there going to be maybe an overlay that shows what areas are impacted in the village? Because that might be helpful, so that you could go and look at your house and go, oh, I'm in
Oh,
that.
I do have that, yes.
That might be very helpful.
So spotty though.
It's hard. The GIS, so we have Suffolk County's GIS layers, and the topography's obviously changed slightly since. Well, I don't know what years. Oh, sorry. I'm not sure what years they did it and how that would. I like the idea of it though. Because right now the practice is we have to tell people to go to their surveyor to get a slope analysis. And exactly, it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
So, I definitely don't think we're opposed to it. And the idea too is for the code is that we want to put, because right now we have trees grading, we have stormwater management, we have all these different sections of code. They're kind of on their own. What we want to do is make this all under the zoning chapter. So there's strict requirements, and if you want to vary from those requirements, you have to go to the zoning board for a variance. So that's natural resources protections, that's steep slopes, all those things we mentioned before. So in there, there'll be requirements about like what you can touch, what you can't touch, mitigation measures that are required. That's the whole idea. But yeah, so and looking at a secret code is definitely part of that. So thank you for saying that, though.
Yeah.
That's a good comment.
And I don't know if you're aware, I think while you were away, the freshwater wetlands, state freshwater wetlands got rescinded, the whole thing, due to a lawsuit.
And what is that?
Not replaced by anything yet.
Yeah, well, do the old regulations apply still, or now it's just like on hold completely?
It sounded like they were abolished.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because I don't understand how that, like, what does that do? How does that impact?
Yeah, so I mean, well, Port Jeff Village specifically, as you guys know, a lot of those areas have been filled in. So we do have a very few mapped wetlands in our jurisdiction, most of which are around Barnum. Not Barnum, Barnum Avenue, northern side of Barnum. But you're right, it's a great question, because there is the old standards, which was like a wetland over 12, I think it was 12 acres, and the sizes were larger, and the new code was adding, like, it was reducing that size, but also adding certain protections, like if they identified it as a significant wetland, that would count. Again, that's all on pause, so we would have to, I guess, speak with council to try and, figure that out. Because it's obviously affecting properties.
Also, I'm sorry, last month in Newsday, there was an article where Governor Hochul had said, all those environmental laws, constructing the buildings, there had to be a vestibule and things like that. She had stated they're not going to do that anymore because it was too costly. And I don't know if it affects the people who already have plans in progress, but it was this whole thing about, well, you don't have to do this, you don't have to do that anymore. I had mentioned it to Josephine, and she was going to take a look at that, but it was really like, all of a sudden, we did a 180 on that.
And you said freshwater wetlands, but not saltwater.
No, tidal wetlands are
Not
different.
tidal wetlands.
Yeah, this is freshwater.
So got any other staff updates?
Well, sorry. Well, I did have the one which I was thinking maybe just because it's already, I don't want to hold off the public hearing, but I mentioned to you briefly before this about the Scraggy Hill. You might have known we've had temporary speed bumps in those areas around the school. They were recently removed, and the administration kind of wanted all your input about doing more permanent ones, kind of those like between Cliff Road and Bell's Hair, right? That's where implementing more permanent structures or speed tables into the area and getting your guys' input on that. I don't know if you want to hold that before or after the hearing.
One question, why would they be moved?
That's a good question.
They were broken.
They were beaten up.
They were just,
With
yeah.
the plowing, the plows hit them and they just tear them up.
And no
They
plans
don't
to put them back in at this
Well, I guess this is.
They would, yeah, the idea is, should we go to a more permanent version of, yeah.
I mean, they were very effective, but the problem is the winter and different people plowing don't realize that they need to lift it.
Yeah, I mean, you have to make sure that as well, whoever's doing the plowing, and I don't think DPW, their staff knows the road, so they would be likely to miss it, but, you're in the middle of a snowstorm, you just think about something else, you hit one of those, and it can be pretty tough on somebody driving. It also begins to damage the speed table, but that being said, I don't think it's a bad idea. I think it should, I would suggest, if the village is gonna do that, get a professional in there to look at it, because the way it was done in Belterra, I don't think there's enough signage or marking to notify somebody that's driving.
Yeah, they're not painted
Right.
enough.
Right.
Brightly enough. But then also, I mean, I drive on that road every day. You only have to slow down to about 20 miles an hour
Right.
to get over them.
Yeah.
So as great as they are, because they are the gradual speed hump instead of the speed bump, I don't know if they're going to solve the problem that they're actually looking to solve up in that area, because I think they need people to go even slower. I mean, I haven't had kids in elementary school for a long time, but I'm assuming that's what they're there for, is to really,
Full speed.
yeah,
Right.
but perhaps more than 18, 19 miles an hour.
You know, it's a difficult thing, you almost have to do a traffic study to see what the traffic
Yeah.
there is.
Well, and what their goal
Speed.
is,
Right.
what they want
Right.
it to be.
I mean, a lot of the speed limits for schools are set arbitrarily. There's no real study done to say, we wanna slow it down, but we make it down to 20, you know. But I would say, you know, bring a professional in, if you're gonna do it, get somebody that, you know, at least can sign it and make it visible. And I'm sure DPW, they may not be happy about it, but they'll know, especially after the first time, the racket.
Yeah, and you could ask how because we did go through significant snowstorms after those speed hump things were put in, so we could find out, I'm assuming Belterre does that road?
Yeah.
So we could find out how they fared.
Is that open to comment or not?
No.
Yeah, it's a work session
It's a
item.
work session, so.
Yeah. I'm sure eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
if
sure
we-
eventually.
Yeah. But this is a work session, so we don't normally take public comment at a work session. We have a public hearing, we do take public comments, but I'll get into that before we start the public hearing in a few minutes, actually. So did you have any other update?
No, I guess the last thing I just wanted to say was actually just kind of thank people behind me and Arda, Parker, and Cindy for all the work that they've done, especially with this meeting. I wasn't here for some time. They did great jobs in staff reports, coordinating everything. I just don't think I give them enough credit all the time.
That's very nice.
So I just want to make that public, and I like to tell them I'm just the front man. It's all just them. So
And we
basically
know
what's
that's
going
not
on.
true.
Yeah. So
Okay, we have a couple of minutes briefly before we get into that. The last item we were going to talk about is the potential expansion of the planning board from 5 to 7 members. We've experienced, I guess, over the past year or so, we've had to reschedule meetings to make sure we had a quorum. A quorum here is 3, so we need to have three members present to hold the meeting. And we've actually had to move a lot of meetings. In order to avoid moving so many meetings during the year and pushing them back or pushing them forward, the thought was that we expand to 7 members. This way, if we had 3 people absent, we still have 4, and in most cases, we should be able to keep to a schedule that we established at the beginning of the year, so that it prevents confusion from that resident who might check 2 weeks or a month before a meeting, put it on their calendar, and then find out the meeting's a week later, or it was pushed up a week, which is worse, because then you miss it. So there's no, we do have to change the village code, and that all that is just changing the one section that talks about the number of members on the board. And the plan is to, once that's done, advertise for people to submit resumes, qualifications. We can get a little bit of an outline of what the qualifications might be to be a planning board member, and get that posted on the website, and then we can solicit applications for full members. That being said, I think it's 6:28, so we're going to get set to move behind us and conduct the
I just
public
want to
hearing.
mention that I think Dan Stukel should automatically move up since he is a professional planner.
Dan's qualifications are there, yeah, and he's had some experience, so he's definitely a prime candidate, unless some Superman comes in and bumps him out. He's likely to be promoted, so to speak, to a full member.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Why don't we just adjourn for a couple minutes to get set, and bring the mics up with you, please. With the New York Planning Federation about the, if there were any issues about adding planning board members, and there are none. You can either have 5 or 7 members. You need the odd number for majority in case there's a close vote. We also checked, we said, we don't have a stenographer anymore because we're on YouTube and it's a matter of record, and the videos are posted, so you can always pop online and, in addition to the minutes, watch the whole meeting if you want to really get a feel for what's happening. And we were told by an ex-planning board member who was the contact at the Planning Federation that she was a planning board chair for many years and never swore anyone in. So and they didn't, I don't believe they had a stenographer either, so we do not need to swear people in. So when the public is making comments, and we'll talk about when that happens tonight at this hearing, when you come up to the podium, you do not need to be sworn in. Usually that privilege was reserved for attorneys only. I don't know why, but now everyone can participate without being sworn in. So the format for the public hearing is as follows. The applicant will come up and present, summarize the project as it stands, give the highlights, the features, the advantages, disadvantages, basically summarize the application. Plans should be able to go up on the board there. Once the applicant finishes, the planning board always has questions, so we'll go back and forth with the applicant. We'll also have a report from staff, any planning staff comments on the application, and questions back and forth with the board. And then we'll ask for public comment. So what you would want to do is raise your hand and come up to the microphone to make a public comment. We ask that you direct your comments directly to the board, not to the applicant, and we'll relay them to the applicant. If the applicant needs to then come up and respond, but all the questions go through the board first to keep order in the meeting. And then when that process is complete, and we hear from everyone who would like to make a comment one way or the other, we typically either adjourn the hearing to the next session. In this case, we will not close the public hearing because we need to get comments from anyone who wants to mail them in later or stop by and drop them off at the planning department office. We always allow at least 2 weeks for that before the hearing is closed, to make sure we have all the comments from those who couldn't attend tonight or who are watching and can't participate live and make comments. So that being said, I ask the applicant to come up, applicant's representatives. If you would just give your name and representation, and we go ahead with the overall summary of the project.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, my name is Eric Russo. I'm with the law firm of Van Brett Jeswiak and Russo, with offices at 140 Main Street, Seattle, New York, 11782.
Eric, before you proceed, I should really have Cindy read in. Cindy, can you just read in the summary of the project as it's posted, so we have that on the record?
Doesn't matter which one. You do.
1506, 1510, 1512 Main Street, Site Development Plan, The Baxter, application number PB1757-25. Location 1506, 1510, and 1512 Main Street. Suffolk County tax map numbers are section 21, block 4, lots 15, 17, and 18. Zoning is C1 Commercial District. The applicant is the Upper Harbor PJ Realty LLC. Property owner, Upper Harbor PJ Realty LLC. Contact is Eric Nicosia, RA. description, the applicant seeks site development plan and conditional use approval for the redevelopment of properties located at 1506, 1510, 1512 Main Street. The proposal includes demolition of several existing vacant commercial structures and construction of a new approximately 36,385 square foot, 4-story mixed-use building containing 40 residential rental units, approximately 3,390 square feet of ground floor commercial space and resident amenities.
Thank you, Cindy. Eric, I'm sorry, continue.
Not a problem. Again, thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I'm here on behalf of the applicant, Upper Harbor Port Jeff Realty LLC of 414 Main Street, Suite 202, Port Jefferson, 11777. The Gito Group is the applicants as well as the property owners. Anthony and Robert Gito are the members. There are members of the family here with us this evening, so if there are further questions of the property owners, I'm sure they'll be able to share in responding to any of the questions as to the presentation. Eric Nicosia was the project architect and still is, and has worked with the applicant through meetings with the Architectural Review Committee to come up with the elevation that's going to be presented to you this evening. As you know, we've been before you on several occasions over the past several months discussing all the various elements of the application and trying to refine and get to the point that we could get to a public hearing this evening to present the entire application. With me this evening is Eric Nicosia, who is our project architect from Rocky Point. In addition, we have Angelo Leno, who is the site plan designer for the site plan, as well as Patrick Lenahan, the other engineer from VHB in Hauppauge, who is our facilities director as to traffic as it relates to this particular project. As indicated, it is at 1506, 1510, and 1512 Main Street in Port Jefferson. As Ms. Suarez indicated, we're presenting this as the project that we're seeking to move forward with has now had building elevation, site plan, and parking analysis. And we've also received and assisted the village by paying a consulting fee to Hayduck Engineering to evaluate the site plan itself. Their comments were received and dated as a review letter March 31, 2026. We also have received comments from the New York State DOT as of April the 9th. The applicant and the consultants received all of these documents yesterday on April the 15th. We are utilizing as part of this a Restore New York grant from Empire State Development Corp. Of $790,000, which the applicants have been lucky enough to secure. We have also moved forward with plans and for the entire facility, which shows that it's a 4-story mixed-use building with 40 units, 23 one-bedroom size, and 7 studios. The size of the one-bedrooms are 588 square feet to 753 square feet, and the studios are between 511 to 560 square feet. The market that the applicant is seeking to attract are students who are in the respective nearby university, doctors, nurses, and PAs, as well as train commuters would take advantage of the nearby railroad station. There is, besides the proposed units, there are amenities such as residence lounge, game room, fitness room, storage room, ground level public patio, as well as a roof terrace on the 4th floor facing Main Street. And there's a roof deck on the northeast corner of the building that's being proposed. But Eric Nicosia will review all of that with the building description, having gone through the process with the GITOs and the Architectural Review Committee. In addition, I'm going to allow or have Patrick Lenahan review the parking spaces on site. There are 49 required. We have 28 on the facility itself. There are 21 that are available through the Realty LLC property, which this board has discussed and we have reviewed as to how we meet the parking calculations. And with that being said, I will ask that Angela Leno come forward, just quickly summarize the site plan which we can put up on the board, then have Patrick Lenahan review for you the parking situation, the easement that is accessible and is part of the public amenity that allow us under the special use permit to have access to other parking areas on the site. And then Eric Nicosia will summarize with the design. If you have questions after that point, I will address them, or you can respond with questions to the three consultants as they're coming forward. And with that, I would like to ask Mr. Leno to come forward at this time. Do you have any questions at this point? Then I thank you.
Good evening, everybody. It's nice to see everybody again. I'm Angelo Leno with VHB Engineering, offices at 100 Motor Parkway in Hoppa. And if we can just throw up the site plan, that would be awesome. So presently, as Cindy had mentioned earlier, the site is improved with 2 existing buildings and a parking lot between them. The project proposes to demolish the existing buildings and, as Eric said, construct approximately 38,000 square foot mixed use building with 40 apartments and approximately 3,450 square feet of commercial space. The building will be set back right on the property line at Main Street, and the public right of way in front of the building will be improved with new curb, new sidewalk to match the aesthetic of all the improvements that are going on in the area as of now. There will be no vehicular access off of Main Street to this property. The access to the site will be shared with the development adjacent to it known as the Hills at Fort Jefferson Apartments, and cars will enter the development and exit either off of Texaco Avenue or Linden Place. Parking for the development, as Mr. Russo mentioned, would be shared with the Hills property. The site plan currently depicts 28 parking spaces on the property that's to be developed, including 2 ADA spaces. And it's noted that combined with the Hills site, the project will provide 135 total spaces for the 2 developments, where 126 would be required. In addition, there is 1 loading space. You can see that the hatched area in the middle of the plan that measures 14 feet by 33 feet long, which would be to service the proposed development. Emergency access would be available from both the Hills development, the access points mentioned earlier, as well as along Main Street. On the site, there is, on the north side of the site, there is a proposed small patio area. And then it's actually in green, along the south side, there's a proposed walkway that would serve as an amenity to allow residents from the Hills to access directly to Main Street. With regard to, let me back up. The green areas that you see on that plan are going to be the required easements for the project. So there'll be an access easement, there'll be an easement for the amenity sidewalk that I mentioned, and then there's a third smaller easement to provide for an encroachment of those parking spaces onto the Hills property. If I can ask, can you throw up the grading and drainage plan, please? With regard to stormwater, the project was designed, the intent with the stormwater design for this project was to, for lack of a better term, cram as much drainage in as we could. So we maxed out the site. We had provided 9 dry wells, which equates to 5.2 inches of runoff over the site, which would exceed the village's requirement of 3 inches. As far as utilities, water and sewer are being proposed to be serviced off of Main Street. We'll be coordinating with the Suffolk County DPW, Suffolk County Health Department, and Suffolk County Water Authority to service the building. Similarly, we'll work with PSE&G and Nat Grid to service the site with electric and gas, and any telecommunications that are required as well. The project site plans provided a lighting plan. There will be decorative lighting throughout the site in the back parking lot, along Main Street, and as well as on the building. All lighting will be dark sky compliant, and no light will spill over onto neighboring properties. There is very minimal, as you can see, there's very minimal landscaping on the site. However, all landscape islands will be planted with native natural landscaping, and the applicant is proposing to provide planter boxes on Main Street as well. As Mr. Russo mentioned, we are in receipt of comments from both HADEC and the New York State DOT. Our office is in the process of addressing those comments, and we'll revise our plans accordingly and resubmit to the village. In cursory review, none of the comments seemed like they were major, and they were all mostly clarifications and some minor plan adjustments. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I do have a question about the lighting, and I see that there was a response from the Department of Transportation about the decorative lighting. There are Dickens lanterns in front of the spot now, and I'm assuming they're going to be hopefully replaced.
Yes.
But I don't, they're going to allow, is the DOT allowing them to go back in only with breakaway poles? Is that what I read? Or do they have to be moved back from Main Street's curb?
My understanding, and again, we'll work through this with the DOT, is that the DOT will permit those lights. We would have to just get an agreement. And Pat, maybe
We'll get to that.
well, Mr. Lenahan can address it, but the first comment says that an agreement would be required for the decorative lighting.
But you feel it will be allowed because it was such a project to get those Dickens lamps installed many years ago from the railroad tracks all the way down Main Street. I hate to see a hole where we aren't there. Understood.
I think we can address that. I'll let Mr. Lenahan talk more about that.
Thank you.
Before we continue, I also want to point out that we have provided the necessary affidavits for mailing and posting and notices provided to Ms. Suarez. I neglected to add that in the beginning of the presentation. And Mr. Lenahan will review now the questions as it relates to the New York State DOT and also go through with you the parking on site and the calculations. As you're well aware, section 250-51.1B4, which is the conditional use permit, which we've gone through with you at all of the prior meetings, we meet all the criteria as requested under the special permit in order to proceed with this application and give you the ability to make a determination as to the application in front of you. So with that, I would ask Pat Lenahan to come up and address the New York State comments that was recited in the letter that we all just recently received.
Thank you, Eric. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Pat Lenahan. Not sure which one of these is working. Maybe this one?
Yeah.
The other light's on. A little higher.
That depends on.
I moved it up a little bit. Very old back. My name is Pat Lenahan. I am the Director of Mobility at VHB's Long Island office in Hauppauge, and as much as I appreciate Mr. Russo also giving me a title, Expansion 2 Facilities Director, the only facilities I direct are my own home, and if you ask my wife, I might do a poor job of it. So I'm going to stick to mobility. Jumping into the DOT letter question, the first thing DOT does is mention if the lights go back in, and there's two lamps that kind of used to be there that are in play in front of the site. One of the lamps is completely missing. The foundation is shattered. The hold-down bolts are bent over. So the plan is, and the plan that got submitted to DOT, is to replace both foundations, run all new wiring, et cetera, et cetera. What the DOT will require is what's called a use and occupancy permit. Because essentially what we're doing is ask DOT to allow us to put a piece of equipment, 2 lampposts and some conduit, in the public right-of-way that doesn't belong to them. These are going to either be owned and maintained by the applicant or owned and maintained by the village, however it works out. And that use and occupancy permit for the current lamps as they exist, to the extent they exist, does not exist. They were put in some previous time when DOT didn't enforce that regulation, but they've started enforcing it basically everywhere we go now. In terms of the breakaway footings, that is a requirement that applies if the object is close enough to the road that it's within what's called a clear zone. And the clear zone, what clear zone means is there's a good chance a vehicle could hit it. If you're outside the clear zone, there's not a good chance a vehicle will hit it, and it doesn't have to be breakaway because it doesn't pose a danger to the motorist. And that clear zone on Main Street with curb is 18 inches. So it does not, in fact, have to be breakaway where they are now or where we're going to put them. If it did, you couldn't have utility poles there as well. Your utility poles also have to be 18 inches beyond the curb. So I think those comments are not an issue. We'll work through them. The rest of the comments are, technical in nature, specifications, details, things like that. So I think we're in good shape with DOT.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll talk about parking. So, as part of our efforts on the Baxter project, VHB performed a detailed and comprehensive parking demand study to evaluate the potential impacts to area parking conditions associated with the proposed redevelopment of the affected properties to a mixed-use retail residential site. Mr. Leno spoke to the fact that the two adjacent properties under common ownership meet the minimum parking required by code when treated together, and the cross-access that makes this possible. My study, dated January 8th, goes a step beyond this and looks at the actual parking demand that we would see and how it will be accommodated. So we have the code in one bucket, and we have what we expect to actually happen in terms of how many people are going to park here in my study. To do that, we first surveyed the current levels of parking and vacant parking spaces on the two sites and in the immediate area, and that's the Hills development immediately to our west and our rear, the surface lot and the garage, the railroad lot to the southwest, and the 19 spaces in that lot that are reserved for the Hills, and the public parking on Linden Place adjacent to the Hills. This gave us the level of vacant parking that is available on the existing Hills site, most importantly in the surface lots. We realized that the folks who are either resident or visiting the Baxter, it's not reasonable to expect them to park in the garage at the Hills. And the reserved spaces on the railroad lot, and allowed us to calculate an accurate parking demand rate for apartments in this specific location near the railroad station on Main Street in Port Jefferson that we can apply to the Baxter and get a very accurate, perhaps the best we could possibly do, of the estimate of what we'd see at the Baxter. We looked at weekday and Saturday evenings into the night, 6 p.m. to 11 p.m. From the demand rates developed for the Baxter and using ITE rates for the retail portion of the project, we developed a projected parking demand that we expect to see every half hour between 6 p.m. and 11 p.m. on a weekday and a Saturday. What we find is, even at the peak parking demand time of about 9 p.m. on a weekday and 11 p.m. on a Saturday, the parking for the Baxter can be accommodated by the combination of the Baxter site, the vacant parking on the Hills surface lot, and the reserved spaces in the railroad lot. So this brings us to the conclusion that were the Baxter constructed and operating, in addition to meeting code requirements for minimum parking required in tandem with the hills, it will not cause parking problems that spill out into the rest of Upper Port and cause issues elsewhere. This analysis is conservative and doesn't account for several things. Trips between the retail space and the apartments, both the Hills and the proposed Baxter apartments that don't involve a new car. All of these calculations involve someone coming to the space from the outside in a car that wasn't there before. Walk-up traffic in a village setting or a downtown setting, certainly a portion of the traffic to the retail will be walk-up. The public parking on Linden, and I know that that's not under the control of the Baxter or the Hills. And the additional stalls in the railroad lot that are at peak times, there are a lot of vacancies over there. But as we keep all of our folks on the Baxter site and the Hills site and the reserved spaces, there's still additional parking in this area for other folks. And it doesn't account for the additional stalls that we will be developing on Main Street on the New York State DOT plans that the DOT reviewed. Currently, we show 3 new parallel parking stalls in front of the site where there are no spaces now. In looking at the plan this afternoon, I'm going to adjust it. I'm going to get 4. So we're going to add 4 stalls on Main Street for the benefit of all the businesses along that section of Main Street. As requested as well, we did take a look at traffic conditions, specifically at the intersection of Texaco and Sheep Pasture Road. And we did note that there is a queue during peak periods eastbound that spills back from the traffic signal at Main Street. And if motorists are not doing the right thing, and unfortunately sometimes they do, they will queue back across Texaco and block the intersection. So what we're proposing to do with the Baxter when it's developed, and we've done this in a few other places in the village, is to develop a do not block the intersection treatment. It used to be called do not block the box, if we recall, but it's a series of very prominent hatched high-vis pavement markings in the intersection, along with supplemental signing that reminds the motorists that might not be paying attention, please don't move up and block the intersection. And it is effective to a good degree. It doesn't always work, but it will certainly help. We talked about the DOT letter already. I believe that brings me to the end, and I thank you. If there are any questions or you want me to later.
I have a question. I'm sure we've gone over this before, Mr. Linehan, but refer to the reserved parking area.
Yes.
Just explain that.
Do we have an aerial photo available of the lot at the south end of Texaco? When the lot at the south end of Texaco was built, I believe in conjunction with the Hills development, part of the agreement of that construction was that 19 stalls in that lot are reserved for the Hills complex. So if you zoom in, you'll see a lot of those stalls have some writing across the leading edge of the stall, and there are 19 of those. They do not fill up. So many of those are available.
That agreement that was recorded is between the Village of Port Jefferson, Rail Realty LLC, and also the Long Island Railroad. It was an agreement that was received and approved by this board and the respective municipal agencies. And all 3 have to agree as to any particular use of that parking because of the arrangement that was given at the time of the approval by this board.
So this application might change that agreement, or may have to be possibly modified.
The agreement doesn't need to be modified because the agreement allows for rail to make the determination and use of the parking. And rail, and we've talked with the village attorney, Mr. Burke, And the easements and this agreement have been able to say that it stands and supplies the necessary parking that Mr. Lenahan has referenced.
Well, I think right now, maybe what you're getting at is their sign for the hills. We might modify the signs to say the hills to Baxter.
I mean, this may be a technical.
Maybe it's not something that's even requires legal language, maybe it's just changing some signs, I don't know.
My second question is to Mr. Russo. I mean, you brought this up, I think, the last hearing, or it wasn't a hearing, the work session, about the parking easement that the gentleman from PHB talked about, access easements, but you know, the parking easement, is it gonna be a blanket parking easement where Hills and Baxter share all spots?
If you remember, at the work session when we were discussing it, I indicated that Mr. Burke and I would work out the language for the easements, and he was going to come back and propose to me what he was seeking so that we could review it. So we agreed that the approval of the application was subject to resolution of the easements with the village attorney, so that it wouldn't prolong the hearing process and would allow to move forward.
I think the planning board would like to get a general sense of what the intention is. Is it going to be a blanket shared easement where Hills and Baxter residents share all parking spaces, or is it?
That was our understanding from the discussions that we had. Because the calculations on the parking are between Rail and the Baxter. So it's going to be shared between those two entities.
And the garage, the covered garage is out.
Correct, we, you know, it's not realistic to expect someone going to the Baxter to go into the Hills garage. So while there's vacant spaces down there, we don't use them.
Thank you.
So, did you have a question?
No, I was.
Okay, so I just received the, HADUC comments, which I don't know when you guys received those. Yesterday. So will you be preparing something for us to see, going kind of line by line in what they brought up in their review, giving answers to that?
Mr. Leno will address that,
Okay.
because I went over that comment letter with him prior to the hearing this evening.
Okay.
And
Yeah, we will provide a formal response, and we'll provide a cover letter that addresses every one of those comments.
Okay. And then they did bring up the issue of a turning radius for fire engine. Didn't we get input from the fire marshal?
to my knowledge, the only responses that you're waiting are from Public Works from the village.
Okay.
They have reviewed the plan, they are satisfied with the plan, and we're waiting for written comments. And that was my discussion with Dan Gross earlier before the public hearing.
We also provided a truck turning plan, an emergency truck turning plan that shows us a code compliant access turnaround.
Okay.
And I think they're asking for clarification on that.
Okay.
So we'll provide that.
Right. And then my only other question, all the stormwater is contained on site.
Correct.
Right. So the DOT they had a number 5 comment. It says revise the grading plan to have all stormwater contained on site. Is that just a typical response that they put? Because I'm assuming it's all contained on site.
Yes, everything within the property line will be contained on site.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know why they have that comment.
They hit the computer.
Okay. Because I'm like, what do you need to revise? I'm confused.
Yeah, just one question before you leave. What's the side? I know the sidewalk's wider along Main Street because this building's set back a bit. Do you know about how wide it is from the basic curb to the front of the building?
So it varies as you go north. At the south end of the building, it's from curb to building, it's approximately 7.3 feet.
Mm-hmm.
And as you get to as you go up, we did not provide a dimension, but it gets wider as you go up. So it would be by the looks of it, it would be like 8 or 9 feet.
I just want to get some clarification on the parking. When you refer to some of the spaces as railroad parking, are you referring to the 7 parking spaces against the railroad tracks on the south side?
No.
Okay, are you, I'll let you tell me what you're referring to.
Okay, if we, I called this general area with the red brick pavers that was constructed, you know, in coordination with MTA and the village and the hills, back when the hills was built, at the south end of Texaco and the west end of Linden. That public parking field there, I refer to it as the railroad lot. I don't know if I should call it the Texaco lot or the Linden lot.
We always refer to it as the Linden lot.
The Linden, okay,
that's why.
then it's the Linden lot. So there's 19 spaces reserved for the hills in the Linden lot.
Thank you,
Okay, sorry for the confusion.
not a problem.
If there are no further questions on those issues, then I would like Mr. Nicosia to come forward and give you the latest update, given the Port Jeff Village Architectural Review Committee and the design of the building, which you may have seen multiple times, but the public is seeing the final version tonight. Eric.
Yes. Good evening, Eric Nicosia, architect for the applicants, and thank you for that. This project, similar to our other successful area projects, we consider the brownfield type redevelopment site, as we are demolishing some dilapidated and vacant, underutilized buildings, and advancing the improvement of the upper part of Port Jefferson, which everybody is looking forward to. Important to note that we are eliminating 2 curb cuts along Main Street. I think that's a big plus for this. The project is zoning compliant and also compliant with the comprehensive master plan. One of the important features being the pedestrian access provided from the backside, essentially in Texaco through the the Hills project, allowing access to Main Street, which is one of the prime goals in the master plan. The other presenters have stated the areas and apartments for the building. There are 40 apartments, 33 one-bedrooms, 7 studios. The commercial space is on the left-hand side of the building, totaling 3,450 square feet, which we have been increasing as we have discussed ongoing discussions with the planning board. So that currently represents about 60% of the space on the first floor. The remainder of the space is the lobby for the building, which is on the right-hand side, and which has a impressive 14-foot ceiling on that end of the building. Obviously, you can see the grade of Main Street is quite severe, probably about 7 feet or more across the front. So the entry on the right-hand side is where you go in to access the apartments if you were walking, which is one of the goals of the redeveloping the area, is that more pedestrians on the street. So we have the entrance for the apartments on that part of the building. The other door on the left-hand side would be an entry for the commercial space, which we could split into 2 different users perhaps. From that door location. Also around the back of the building is the entrance. We have a garage underneath, an open garage. It's covered, but it's open on 3 sides. And that has the handicap accessible parking entrance under the building in the back. So the building also has a basement, which is where we're housing a fitness room and a game room for the residents, as well as some storage for tenants and the building owner. So the building and the project is zoning compliant. The building design itself complies with the additional regulations for buildings on Main Street, which was adopted into the code and comes from the architectural guidelines that were part of the comprehensive upper port plan study. Some of those guidelines which we are meeting here are, the facade is modulated every 22 feet. So that meaning those bump outs that you see, the 3 bump outs, is a 2 foot in and out as we go along, which helps break up the expanse of the building. The entries are set back 3 feet in a kind of a bay window style. We have 45-degree angles. That sets the doors back underneath where you see those 3 lights there. We also have awnings into space with that. One of the requirements and the guidelines that we've met is the 60% glazing on the first floor, which we are providing with expansive storefront. All the windows and the storefront is black trimmed. The upper part of the building is required to have 30% glazing, which we've accomplished. We have the doors themselves are 8 feet tall, so the top of the floor-to-floor heights inside the building are 9-foot ceilings. The doors themselves are 8 feet, and the windows are at that height. It gives us the opportunity to have a lot of glass along the building. We also have numerous balconies, Juliet balconies, essentially along Main Street with the railings, helping to give it a residential scale. The building itself is all masonry veneer. We have at those entrances, we have limestone base in the entrance portion. We have a limestone band that is on the building that separates the residential from the commercial space. So from between the first floor and the second floor is a limestone band, and that band, and these details in general, continue around all 4 sides of the building. So the upper portion has all brick. We also have heavy limestone lintels, or the tops over the windows are made out of limestone. And the sills, the bottoms of the windows are also limestone. It also features a limestone band a little up high. You see that those 3 thin line going across is another accent feature. And the top of the buildings is topped off with 18-inch or so cornice that is on the top and that next level down. One of the requirements for us accomplishing the 4-story that's permitted as part of the code is the setback, the additional 12-foot setback from the main line of the building. So that upper part is set back to 12 feet, which softens the impact of that on the streetscape. As pointed out, also the sidewalk is quite expansive in this location, and there are a couple of spots, parking spots out front. I'm not sure where we're left. There's a couple of spots there. As part of the process, in addition to working with the planning board, we worked with the architecture review committee, which we had met with, and they had some very positive suggestions that we've incorporated into the design. Some of that being we've added the columns under those bump outs on each side. There's 2-foot columns, pilasters that are under that, and those have the wall sconces lighting on it. We've added some box planters along the front. And they suggested some other enhancements with the cornice, or that big trim piece on the top, which we've made to be identical to the one down below. As part of our conversations, we've also added bump outs to the side of the building that they face the alley on each side, but that enhance the look of the building. Although it would be hard for people to see, but we made the effort to put bump outs there that work with the stairwells that we have in the building. So all in all, we feel that we're using high quality materials, and it's a high quality design that we are happy to bring to the village, and we feel will be a successful project. Is there anything else I can add? And I'm being tapped on the back. So. Oh, the solar panels, which we discussed. As part of the Josephine's presentation a few meetings ago, she had pointed out about how the New York State Building Code has updated their energy code to be quite more expansive, and one of the items discussed was solar panels being a requirement. So at the time, this is a 2025 code that was put into effect right at the beginning of the year. And previous to that, in the previous code, there was a method in the energy code where you would, we'll say, circumvent that requirement, but they have since taken that element out. So in my calculation of the energy code and re-looking at that, there are some exceptions, but we don't qualify for that exception. So there will be 40 or so solar panels on the roof to be determined. However, those solar panels, the top of the roof has a parapet that's 42 inches high, which is the requirement for the building code to have that height of parapet. So those solar panels up there will be invisible to the public unless you're flying by in your drone. So although the panels might have a slight tilt to them, they're still going to be below that parapet and not visible. If I can entertain questions.
Just a quick one. The ARC comments, do they reflect the ones that are just received yesterday? Do they reflect, were there anything?
The last comments I received were March 18th, and they had no more suggestions or comments other than they talked about showing a side view to them, but really the side views were part of my elevation package, but they weren't asking for additional efforts to be made. And we did, on the side of the building, we had provided bump outs and an additional trim, like those 3 thin bands we continued along that side. And in addition, we added a couple more windows in the stairwells. We added a couple of square windows to emphasize that. And again, we're limited on the amount of windows we can put on the side. So as part of our improvements as we've gone along on this project, we've increased the alleyway dimensions now to 5 feet, 5.5 feet. But still that limits the amount of windows I can have on the property line because of fire code requirements. So I am at the maximum that I can provide window-wise on those sides.
And the plan also accounts for the doors that are going around the perimeter of the building. We already provided that as was requested. And in addition, the public amenity reference that they raised, given the fact that we're giving easement on the south side, they were satisfied with that amenity in terms of the discussion that we had.
Okay, I thought there was something related to the contribution for the Tucker House restoration.
Well, we have yet to hear back from the village, and as you recall from the work session, it was going to be left to the Board of Trustees and the mayor to determine what that outcome was going to be, and we have yet to hear from anybody.
Yeah, and the reason that is because that grant has not been, the grant for the Long Island region has not been awarded as of yesterday, I think, when I checked. It's odd that normally they award all the state grants together. They awarded, weeks ago, they awarded 5 of the 10 regions, but they have not awarded the other 5, of which Long Island is one of the reasons. So we don't know, but hopefully within the next 2 weeks we'll have a decision.
But our last discussion at the work session was that it was going to be left to the Board of Trustees and the mayor to determine how best to proceed.
Right.
So it's not part of our application or presentations.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I have a question about the 30% glazing and the purpose of it.
So the purpose was that it was in the part of the architectural guidelines developed in the comprehensive plan. And then it was adopted into the zoning code. And so that's one of the requirements. So we're not actually giving it away, but it is one of the requirements that we've met. So having the tall doors and having the tall windows meets that requirement.
So is the glazing to prevent bird strikes, or is the glazing actually for the comfort of the people who live inside it?
Well, I think the intent behind that was to not have tiny windows, and it makes the building more attractive. It makes a better looking building. So I think that was the intent of it.
Thank you.
The fourth floor balconies, are those full balconies or do they also?
Yeah, no, well, the fourth floor is a 12-foot setback, so that is a 12-foot terrace that runs across the whole front, and the tenants, there are dividers up there, but each tenant on that side has access to that.
Do you have, can you show us the side and rear elevations tonight?
I can, that's on the submitted floor plans and elevation drawing. So that being the north side, which would be Sheep Pasture Road is on that side, but there are two properties in between Sheep Pasture and our building. So the bump outs there that you see in the middle, that's one of the stairways. And those windows there represent a couple of windows in the stairway. The window all the way on the left is part of the lobby down below on the first floor, and the other windows are in the bedrooms in the apartments of the And the limestone band, as you can see, continues around the entire building, as well as the large cornice. And I guess we can go to the south elevation. One more page down, and there we go. There's the south side again. We had filled in on the lower right-hand corner where that red line is. We previously had the covered plaza, which in negotiations and discussions with ARC and planning, we eliminated that. So now that's becomes part of the building, and it expanded the commercial space in the building with that window there. And the doorway is an exit to the alley from the stair tower. And if we scroll up, will be the rear of the west side of the building. So the details are continued around the building with the cornice, as well as on top we have the limestone band, the windows with the limestone sills and lintels, as well as some of the balconies continued. And underneath, obviously, is where some of the pull-in underneath parking is. And the bump out all the way to the left with the door was the entrance, additional entrance for the tenants, and the lobby is split. So you come in on the Main Street lobby, and there's a large ceiling space, and you go up 6 feet, a flight of stairs to the lobby in the back. So the lobbies do connect from front to back. You can see through from one side of the building to the other.
Thank you.
Then that being said, I thank you for your attention this evening. As was raised earlier, there is municipal sewer and water going to the proposed apartment complex. And in addition, as Eric mentioned earlier, with the work through your work sessions and working with the planning and building division here in the town, in the village, excuse me, there are no variances required for this application, and that's how we work towards making certain that we have eliminated that issue. And lastly, the approvals that need to be sought after approval by this board will be from Suffolk County DPW, which it is our understanding the Planning Commission is okay with the proposed conditional use, and we've gotten that recognition. We need Suffolk County Department of Health Services, which has been referred to, and I think there are comments that have come back on that. Suffolk County Water Authority, New York State DOT has now responded, so we're going to address that as outlined earlier. LIPA, and as well as National Grid. And that I would conclude, which was discussed in some of our prior work sessions, there is the possibility that the applicant is going to proceed with an IDA application with the town of Brookhaven. So that, in summary, I guess, summarizes our project, its design, its site plan, utilities. And if there are any other questions, we'll be happy to address those from you or that from the public after you close.
Okay, I'd like to hear, thank you. I'd like
Thank
to
you.
hear from staff comments. Yeah.
Just like, I guess I said, San Gross Senior Planner, Department of Planning. Yeah, so I mean, I think like Mr. Russo and the applicants have said tonight, this is a lot of comments that were provided, were discussed during prior reviews, right? These plans have been reviewed by our staff and we concur with most of the comments made, and particularly we also received HADEC's comments in the state. Of course, with HADEC, we concur with their recommendations, which they've said they will address. The only thing I just wanted to add, that we discussed a little bit during the last meeting, I think it's important to consider as part of this is really what we discussed with SECRA, right? This is something that's a type 1 action, given that it's a building that's over 35 feet in height, as well as proposing more than 15, right? 15 residential dwelling units within the village, and that's something that is in our village code, chapter 129. And as part of, specifically within this district, we talked last time about how there's been both a draft environmental impact statement and a final environmental impact statement for what was referred to as the Uptown District at the time, right? Talk about analyzing proposed development within this district, talk about residential densities, parking assessments, traffic, and what was requested was a, blanking on the term right now, but it was an alignment to how.
Consistency.
Yeah, consistency analysis is perfect. So of how this project falls within the scope of that and different aspects of it. There were, based on our review last time, we did find that this project does seem to substantially conform to a lot of what was analyzed as part of the environmental impact statement, right? There's 40 units. The density of it is Appendix H, which actually breaks up the district and outlines different densities and different potential proposals. This seemed to conform pretty substantially to what was there. We did review the consistency analysis since the last review. We did find it to be appropriate. So that's something that I think going forward as potential future work sessions, I think the board can formally take consideration on, which will lead to the part 2 and part 3 of finalizing SECRA. I do just, what I would put out there is just to make sure, I know most of the comments received from HADEC and these other agencies are relatively minor, just making sure if there's any changes that have to be made because of the findings of those agencies, as well as what may come from DPW, just to make sure the consistency analysis going forward is still consistent, right? It still isn't fully updated to revised and reflected the most recent plans that are yet to come at this point. The Department of Public Works was mentioned, and Greg Munson and I have talked to the superintendent, have talked about it, and we are going to be meeting soon on it. We have prior meetings, but there's a little hiccups, but we are going to meet hopefully before the next meeting before the board. There was commentary about the fire marshals, and we do have written sign off from the fire marshals regarding this proposed project. I know HADEC had some comments, but maybe we can refer the fire marshal comments to that as well, and maybe get some clarification on that point. I think it's important. But overall, I don't think there's too much for us to add at this point. I think we've reviewed a lot of these plans, we've seen the minor changes that have been made, and just kind of waiting the final details of what's yet to come.
Any questions for Dan?
Yeah. Not necessarily for Dan, maybe the applicant. Is there an affordable component? That used to be, I know New York State laws require 10 to 20%.
Yes, there is.
Okay.
That is part of the application, and if we proceed with the IDA, it will be a requirement.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Then I thank you.
At this point, we'll entertain public comment. What I'd like you to do is, if you'd like to speak, put your hand up, I can call you up, and just give your name and address, and try to keep it brief and to the point. Please address the questions of the board. If we need to call the applicant to respond, we will call the applicant up, but please don't correspond or speak directly to the applicant, because then it gets into a side discussion and there's no mics out there, and that kind of impacts the order of the meeting anyway. So who would like to speak? Come on up.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Tara Higgins. Just to be candid, I am an attorney, although zoning and property are not my area of expertise. My family owns Tara Inn, which is located right across the street from the proposed project. Our family business has been there for 48 years. I have here with my sister, who has the unfortunate responsibility of running the place, and my brother-in-law and my husband will do their part. Just a couple of quick comments, questions, observations. I understand that there are proposed 23 one-bedrooms. So in theory, if there were couples in each of those one bedrooms, and I have no idea what the cost of any of these are gonna be, then right off the bat, that you could theoretically have parking spots for 46 people. As we all know, as residents, I'm sorry I didn't give my address, 5 Mayflower Drive, Fort Jefferson. Parking's been a problem in the village for as long as I've been around and before that. So as business owners, we're concerned about, residents there using up the parking spots that are on the property that we own adjacent to the building. So that's one of our concerns. I think we heard the answer to this. What is the amount of subsidized housing? Was it 10 to 20% that's required? 10.
To 20, could be 20.
And do we have a time frame, knowing when the beginning and end of this construction would be? I know that things are not exact and nobody has a crystal ball, but it'll certainly affect our business, good, bad, and ugly from the beginning to the end, whatever that might be. And having said all that, we welcome new businesses and residents up there, since I think we're the only viable game in town. So I don't know if anyone wants to.
Yeah, we'll call the applicant up to
Thank you.
address.
Thank you.
At least the parking, that was the first question with the 23 one-bedroom units, is that not 46 parking spaces? So who from the applicant would like to come up then?
No other questions?
Well, that was one of them, and then the other is the construction schedule.
Okay. Pat Lenahan again. I think what I heard was 23 apartment units, an assertion that they would require 46
Potentially.
Parking spaces potentially. That is not accurate, respectfully. And precisely the reason we counted the parking demand at the Hills, what we found at the Hills at peak was a parking demand per unit that approaches 1, which is similar to what we used when we developed One North and some of the other apartments in the village. And in my opinion and my experience, it's been very accurate.
So that was one parking space per
Unit.
one bedroom unit? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Pursuant to the code requirement.
Yeah, and it matches the code. What it does, my work proves your code, basically.
And there were 7 studios.
Which is a 1-bedroom, yeah.
Studios.
Okay, thank you.
The other question I think that was raised was the timeline for construction. And in discussing it with the applicant, depending upon the approvals that are to be received and the timeline, it would be from a year to a year and a half.
That's a duration at beginning, well,
I can't give you a,
Sorry.
if you approve it in 2 weeks, well, we'll move forward faster and quickly.
We don't meet for a month, so.
Well, then if it's a month, then in a month.
I'm sure there'll be,
I'm sure the village attorney would love to help us expedite that process.
he is not around right now.
He was here momentarily.
He left the room.
He ran away. See?
Yeah. Oh, I had a question about the affordability and the, is that only if you go to the IDA?
No, you also have to comply, but I know that it would be a requirement with the IDA, 10% affordable, 10% unaffordable. So it would be the same requirement statewide. It's also required in the town of Brooklyn and the other various municipalities.
Okay.
Are there any other questions?
Well, I have a question for Ms. Higgins. When they built Port Jeff Crossing, did you find it impactful on your business?
As far as the,
Well, when they were doing the construction on Port Jeff Crossing, even though it's a block south of Tara Inn, did you find that impactful on your business? Because I'm kind of thinking that Baxter would be equivalent.
all I'm gonna say about that is anytime that there's construction, you do get an upheaval in, maybe some unwelcome friends. I'll make the analogy, one summer I spent the summer at Villanova to finish my science requirements, and as all the residents in this old building moved out, every critter, cockroach, and whatever was looking for a new home. So there's always that potential with construction. I wasn't sure if your question was regarding that, or whether we saw an increase in business as a result of the construction.
No, because when we had our business, every time there was construction, and I think you might remember when they were redoing the railroad tracks, there was no business whatsoever. So I was wondering if, with Port Jeff Crossing, it was pretty low key as far as removing what was there, the businesses that were there, and taking them away, and it didn't seem as they were shutting down Main Street. So I'm kind of projecting that the Baxter will be similar, that Main Street will not be closed off, and even though there will be some impacting on businesses, as there always is.
From your lips to God's ears, because you'll have some of those workers coming over looking to
Well,
have lunch,
there you
know?
go, lunchtime,
So-
and you have the best menu in the whole of the village.
Thank you, Barbara.
You're welcome.
Anybody else on this? Okay. If not, we'll call up the next person who would like to speak. Any comments? Anyone else? Hands? No? Okay. Seeing none, I will remind everyone that we have 2 weeks to get comments in. They can be dropped off at the planning department, or that's probably the fastest way to get here. You could mail them here, but you want to make sure they get here, so it's an easy drop off. For anybody here who would like to make comments, or anybody watching on the live feed that would like to make comments later.
So then, Mr. Chairman, that being the case, there are written comments that you're seeking from the public, so do we need to have another public hearing?
No.
So we can close the public portion and limit it to written comments to be received. And those that are outstanding, if you deem it appropriate, we can address them through the planning department.
We could do that, but if there's any major comments, we would prefer to adjourn the hearing so that we can close it, see what the comments are that come in within 2 weeks, so we can discuss those at the next meeting and then close it.
And your next meeting date is?
February,
May 21st.
I'm going ahead to February 27th. May 21st, I believe, right? Yeah.
Okay, so then the thought of the board is keeping the public portion open for written comments, and if need be, to come back and respond at that time if it has to be done.
Right. So I would venture to say any unforeseen additional comment.
And I would agree, because at this point, with all of the scrutiny and concerns that were raised by the board and the various departments and the agencies, I believe the application is complete, given what we've addressed. My opinion.
That's a good
My
assumption
opinion.
on your part.
Well, I'm here on behalf of the applicant. In response to the timeline to construct, the quicker you make a decision, the happier construction will start.
We
So I
understand.
Thank you.
Okay.
Have a good evening.
Can I get a motion to adjourn? Right?
I'll make a motion.
Second? I'll second. All in favor?
Okay, thank you. We're gonna reconvene down there.
You wanna come up there and give us your comments?
Yeah. Or actually, I would like to come up for.
Oh, yeah.
This one, okay, yeah.
Yeah, no, we, yeah.
Just bring it on the chair.
I'll bring it Thursday.
You guys can sit here with that one right here, I'll come up with you.
Alright, we can, yeah, that works.
I'm literally right here.
Okay, yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah.
Jim?
Jim, you got one?
Yes, sir.
We wanna talk about the overall,
Variances.
The use variance and the area
use
variance.
variance. Yeah, use yeah. Okay, so I think you sent a, email about that, right?
Yes.
You wanna just summarize that? or-
Yeah, I mean, essentially it was, essentially the question was whether you needed a use variance. The basic, the bottom line was that one of the questions is whether under two particular sections of section 258, whether you could have a ground floor apartments fronted on Main Street. Now the proposed apartments are actually in the alleyway. They're not fronting on Main Street. They're
They're on the side of the building, close to the front of the building.
Right.
They're behind that little what was potentially a zoo room or gallery or
Right.
that little.
Right, similar to what was done with One North is my understanding.
Colors.
I mean, yeah, that's.
So they still need variances from the zoning board?
That's a question, yeah, that was a question, whether we need a variance for the ceiling height, and that was for
It's
the
conditional.
ceiling height, only if it gets reverted back to retail.
Yeah,
That's
so-
the only reason you would need it, right?
It was a multiple dwellings or, conditional use in the district, provided they could be converted.
Yeah, so my question was, are we determining that because they're not technically on Main Street because of the Zoom room, and that they're on the side alleyway, essentially, that they are not considered dwellings, ground floor dwellings on Main Street, so thus they don't need to have they don't need to conform with the being able to
Height,
be,
or height requirement, yeah.
to be able to be retail in the future. Oh my god, that was hard to say
Yeah,
that.
no, I understand what you're saying.
Well,
So do they need to be
so-
retail in the future? I mean, like,
Well, that
does
was-
that have to happen or does that not have to happen?
So,
Go ahead.
yeah, no, I was just gonna say, so the main question originally was, there is a few sets of variances required. Last time during the meeting, we said, right, that mixed-use buildings are permitted within the C2 district, provided that all the ground floor uses are considered permitted, and all the above stories are consisted of multiple dwellings, like the apartments, it could be a single apartment. And what we said is that last time they had multiple dwellings on the ground floor, which is a conditional use. So at the time, our interpretation was because they're proposing a conditional use on the ground floor, so it's a mixed-use building containing a conditional use on the ground floor as well as apartments above.
But is it a conditional use only on Main Street?
Well, that's, oh yeah, I was getting there.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's
Sorry.
okay.
I
No,
can't
it's okay. So we said because they wanted something that wasn't permitted in the district, right? It said ground floor had to be a permitted use, the above stories had to be apartments. We said it needed a use variance because you're proposing something with the conditional use of the ground floor and apartments above. That wasn't legal in the code. The next set of variances, though, said if that is the case, and they're going to have ground floor apartments, the conditional use standards apply, which includes allowing future conversion to retail. It's a 15-foot ceiling height. It's separate utilities. There's 4 criteria that it says, including the planning board shall consider if it can be converted, including the following, but not limited to. So, and we said in the past that you would need an area variances for the standards they couldn't meet, because that was practice whenever you have a conditional use and you can't meet those conditions. We've said it needed an area variance in order to potentially have it within the district. So, and then I know then Jim looked into the code again, And I know you had an interpretation based on the first part of that, right? It was about whether or not you need a use variance to allow conditional use on the ground floor. That was the question.
The location.
That's specific to Main Street.
Right, to Main Street, right.
But what about the ceiling height issue
Yeah,
on
the ceiling height.
side street, on
Right,
our
right.
Main Street?
But it only, you treat it one of two ways, I think, on that. You could either, you could, it only, the 15 feet height is only required if it gets converted to retail.
But it has to, I think the way that,
I'm sorry,
could
it's,
be,
yeah.
I'm paraphrasing, but I think the idea is that it has to be, the concept is it could be
convertible.
residential, but it needs to be able to be converted back. That's the,
So it has.
but does that apply only to Main Street? Or is it?
I think you can make that interpretation.
Well, I don't know.
Well, because I think the argument
Is it ever gonna
that the
be-
applicant made was
Is it
that
ever-
It's not
we
being
didn't,
converted.
Right,
we have allowed ground floor apartments not on Main Street
right.
and not
Which I think is a
require
reasonable
them to be
determination.
convertible to retail.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that was gonna be my next question.
Yeah.
That's
What
what-
have we done in the past?
So
Yeah,
did
and
we
we have that,
misinterpret the code in the past, or did we overlook it, or did we understand and apply the code correctly?
I think you applied it correctly, yes. I mean, I think, people can interpret things differently, obviously. In the situation here, sometimes it's a case-by-case basis, right? On here, is retail, in an alleyway, ever something that could conceivably be reasonable use?
I mean, it
Probably
does
not.
happen, you see it in, like, kind of,
Maybe
resort towns.
or some college town, right?
You see
Maybe
it,
have some.
but it's kind of a long shot.
Right, I would agree with that. Yeah, so, I mean, I'm perfectly comfortable proceeding without the need for the variance.
Are we opening ourselves up for anything, because again, if we did something inappropriate before, we don't want to
No.
use this as an example
Yeah.
for future.
No, I don't think you did anything inappropriate in the past. And I don't think you're doing anything inappropriate now.
If we don't look to the
Right,
variances.
right, yeah.
The area variances.
Sure, yeah.
On the height.
Right, right. And I think it's a completely reasonable determination that it's only applying on Main Street because you don't want to go, you don't want to send anything for the board requiring the use variance. That's just, that would kill. It's impossible, honestly. A strict letter of the law to approve a use variance is extremely difficult application. So that's something.
What other variances are you suggesting?
Well, the one thing I was gonna say is, because I originally thought the way the code reads that apartments were allowed at all on Main Street or North Country Road. So like, we have other multiple dwellings being proposed right now in the same district, and for different reasons it didn't apply, but we said originally that those standards applied because it still had ground floor apartments, but it was just a multiple dwelling building. So we actually, I don't know if Parker, you want to pull the code back up again? I just wanna, I want the board to just read it and
Of the board.
Yeah.
Well, in the judgment of the board.
Yeah, judgment of the board.
And it does say no ground first
And
floor.
no apartments on Main Street or North Country Road.
Main Street.
And the judgment of the board is pretty strong.
So our interpretation originally was that it doesn't apply because the way we interpreted it was that that's prohibiting apartments in general on Main Street and North Country Road, and anywhere else they're proposed, they would have to meet those standards. That's what we said. That's what.
It's not even a complete sentence.
I'm not saying it's
what's
good.
allowed. So these are allowed in the zoning
C2.
district.
Multiple times, if the ground floor allows, multiple times if the ground floor.
So before this number 7, C2 allows multiple dwellings.
Yeah, and even if it says it's not mandatory, this language doesn't matter. To me, it looks like it's even mandatory. The fact is to be considered, including the 15-foot ceiling heights, the ability to convert ground floor without Construction to residential use.
Applicants also are they allowed to promote?
I'm happy to, if it helps clarify the applicant's position.
Yeah, I'd love to hear
Happy
your,
to, yeah.
like, if you could explain your email.
Go and sit back.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hello, everybody. Good to see you. Yeah, so I think you guys saw our email, but so we were, when we first received this, we were a little, not taken aback, but a little confused as to why use variance might be needed based on a couple of things. One, that all of the other, like you guys talked about, all of the other C2 projects that are similar in nature do not require that. Two, because it's not a permitted use on the ground floor residential, but it is permitted as a conditional use subject to the planning board approval, which is your discretion. So that's a big piece of it. Sorry, that's a big piece of it. And as far as the ceiling height and all those other things, I think it's important that when we read this code that it says these are factors to be considered by the planning board. These are not like the bulk and dimensional regulations that you see throughout the code. These are factors for you guys to consider making that determination whether it's permitted. Correct. So for us, the use variance didn't make sense. Yeah, that's just the reality.
I mean, just to be devil's advocate, you know, the Zoom room, had the Zoom room not been there, and that was an apartment, then technically that would be on Main Street, right? So it's, I mean, I'm creating a space in order for those apartments to not be considered Main Street. And I guess we just have to decide if an alley is not.
So one of the, I hear what you're saying. If you go back and look at that, right? So it says not on Main Street, not on North Country Road. So we are not providing any residential units on Main Street or North Country Road, right? So that's
because of the Zoom.
That's okay.
That's like a building.
It's not residential.
I know,
It's not
but
ground floor residential.
You know, big picture, just kind of as a backdrop, and I'm sure Jim can confirm this.
You wanna come up? You wanna come up?
No, I doubt I really need to.
They want to be. Just, well, yeah, that's all, right there, just take, just so that you know.
So, you know, I think we all know there is some ambiguity in the code here.
Yeah.
And, you know, just big picture in terms of giving you a comfort level that you're being reasonable in terms of a final determination, if we're fortunate enough for your determination to be that we don't need, you know, these variances, is that ambiguity in a zoning code is supposed to be resolved in favor of the property owner. I mean, that's just straight common law in New York.
Against the drafter, essentially.
You know, so all things being equal, it's reasonable, even if we could go honestly back and forth with this forever, and I think we all would agree it is ambiguous, that there's nothing wrong with resolving it as the law would really state in favor of the property owner. Well, you know, so it's just one factor to realize that I think that determination would be very reasonable because it would be in accordance with the law in New York State.
I don't think there's anything in this code that prohibits this board from considering approving multi-dwellings. It's still up to you to consider the fact.
Without 15-foot.
Right, yeah.
And the reality is, it's really extremely unlikely would ever be converted to retail, and if it ever was, and then the applicant had to jump through a number of hoops at that point to do it, then the applicant would do it. But I think that's generally unlikely.
Require them
at that time
to
meet all the requirements to get the relief that would be needed without having to do it for, you know, a reason that's just, you know, not going to come to fruition.
Yeah, and so I'm just remembering when we approved ground floor on I call it Conifer project, the north one.
What is it now?
Well, but we approved those because technically it's almost the second floor when you're on that side street.
Right. Okay.
Second story. So there was no access to that from
Main Street.
What's the
Perry
Perry Street. So I guess again, this is in your favor, I feel like that section, because of the slope of Main Street, there really was no way to access that floor from Main Street. I mean, you can't really have an access, that height, the height of that floor would have to be where you started your building, and then it wouldn't make the building all that functional. So I guess.
Are those units on grade there? They're not. They're not.
Are the floor on grade, Aaron?
Yeah, the floor is beneath.
Are those units on grade?
They are, yes, as far as on Walnut, they are.
But not on Main
Walnut.
Street.
Correct, they're below Main Street.
Yeah.
No, and what about this, it's really a side yard. What, that's not
I
Walnut.
mean, it technically fronts on a street, but front yard, but yeah, it's more or less a side yard. Yes.
And that's Walnut, that street?
No, the street between Paris and
Well, there's no street between Paris and this.
You're looking at
It's a parking lot.
Alley.
Right, it's
It's not even an alleyway, it's a parking lot.
It's,
Yeah,
it's, there's, right, so it is at least 6-7 foot difference.
yeah, so I
From
guess.
there to the back, easy. And so Walnut, it's basically on grade in Walnut, and so you're below, the Zoom room is above, that Main Street, there you go. So actually yep, that would be on there. So the Zoom room actually, the width, is below grade on Main Street, because the entrance there, you see the first where the light blue starts is the elevation that matches Main Street, and as you go to the right, to the south, the grade is rising still quite significantly. So you're at least 4 to 5 feet below floor level of that Zoom room is below Main Street.
And the unit to the east, the units to the east are also?
Those, right, they're on that same level. So the blue that you see, which is the common area, is call it the first floor elevation of those units. So the door in the back where the blue is, that is the same elevation. So that's grade in the back and grade in the front. So the Main Street grade there is the same as the grade Wall Street in the back. So the grade slopes from the west to the east.
Do you have an elevation?
Essentially, there are window wells, we'll call it, or the ground. There's a retaining wall. There's plantings down below that wall. So those units are below grade from Main Street.
And below grade from the side yard too.
So it tapers. So in other words, right, it starts out at 0, and then the wall is 5 feet or so at the front.
So that was my argument in your corner, was in order to make, if we were hard and fast and said, yes, you have to convert those to retail, the only way that you would be able to access that space would be from Walnut. So that's technically not Main Street.
Correct, yes.
Main Street, and practically,
Yeah.
it's not really gonna rent, it's not really.
Right.
No, and the only thing we're not needing is the 15 foot, which is, a capricious type of however that came into being in the zoning, it wouldn't apply to the type of retail that you would put there. There's nothing that's gonna wanna be 15
I think
feet.
I think it probably came from the intent of, if you were focused on Main Street, you'd want those 15 foot for retail in the future, but that's not the case in this one. I think there's also, if you go into the comp plan and look at what was really theoretically proposed here originally, there was ground floor residential units proposed here. So it was never the idea that there was going to be retail across the entire bottom floor of every building, because none of the GEIS analyses would have worked out, right? The traffic and parking, none of it would have worked.
Yeah. So I'm in favor of what the applicant has put forth. I'm in favor of not requiring a variance.
Are there any other, so we've discussed the use variance issue, we've talked about the 15 feet height, so are there any others that are, no?
That was it. There's no more side yards. There's no, I'm pretty sure these are the only 2 variances, or 3 variances that end up being.
board's comfortable with that, we would just appreciate if we could move forward to be scheduled for hearing.
Oh, I just had a quick question. The latest drawings, if I understood them correctly, the north, commercial space is now, it's not going to have a restaurant. Did I understand
Correct,
that correctly?
we eliminated the takeout restaurant at this time,
Okay,
yes.
was that because of grease trap issues or?
That was one potential issue, and also the discussion was that generated, that was an additional conditional use that needed to be considered, so that complicated matters.
So you didn't want to have a conditional use? I thought restaurant wasn't conditional in C2.
Still is.
Is it?
Yeah. I think so.
I don't think so. I
I
thought
think-
it was, because I thought that was a big change. Am I? Okay. I'll raise it down, because I thought.
No, you're
it was-
okay. It's right, the edge right there. It's still a conditional use.
Oh, wait, go back up.
Yeah, it's a conditional.
Yeah,
Like
subsection B is, yeah, conditionals.
And the grease trap was a problem. I mean, we were proposing it on North Country Road, but it's really not a practical.
We said it might be a little faster if they, like, so say the restaurant wants to come in the future, they could always do another site plan amendment to allow a restaurant in the future. If you do it as part of this, it just adds more complexity to the project, that's all.
We've still got about, was it 80% of the frontage on Main Street is office or retail? Office and retail combined?
It was a substantial portion. We increased it, in discussions. I forget the exact number, but it was more than we had started with. So actually, it was more than. I'm going to say it's more than the 50%, but I don't have the exact number.
Great.
Might want to leave now.
So
we have more comments, I'm sure.
No, nothing bad, I mean, if.
I didn't say they were bad, I was just sitting there.
Sorry, I'm just the negative reaction. No, the only thing I would say is if the board does agree that those variances aren't required, what I would just ask is, I know we had some other outstanding items, we just make sure we need to do submission, but I guess it would come back before the planning board then, because this was referred to zoning board. So that's where we kind of are, we just have to retract that.
Did we refer this to engineer Takeda?
I don't think we did yet.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's,
No, we didn't.
you guys could do that tonight if you, yeah.
I mean, we should, just so we get their comments.
Typically, that was 5,000 is their typical escrow amount they request.
Yep.
So what, if I could ask, would you expect in terms of being able to move forward with a hearing before the board?
Depending any other comments you have.
Yeah, I don't have the sample report in front of me, but I would look at the last post-meeting memo and see what was still outstanding. I think an updated, probably a narrative, we'll give you a post-meeting memo describing this, right, the finding of the board tonight. I guess before a public hearing, we just have to make sure everything else was addressed, but, typically engineering comments, I think is.
Well, but.
Oh, we can say it as part of the public, yeah.
Yeah, because, I mean, we just got engineering comments back. You just know that you'll have to, respond, and you might get them the day before the public hearing.
The applicant needs to be comfortable with that, paying that container.
That's a reasonable
Yeah, I
request.
don't think that'll be a problem.
I have a feeling that's not going to be an argument.
Towards the one.
Yeah.
If I recall the parking, you meant the parking requirements, right? With the lot, new lot.
You guys made a determination.
I forget the number, I believe it was a few.
That we could pay a fee for, it's just a couple of spots.
But you just reduced the amount, you reduced your spots by two.
Right.
3? Just recently.
Yeah, I believe
So I
it's on
think
the
you're-
drawing, I believe it's 3 is the magic number.
So are you deficient in parking spaces now, or no?
Yes.
What's my question?
Can I answer?
Yes, please.
Yeah. So the current site plan, was never revised to remove the restaurant, so we need to do that. That shows us being short 7 spaces, but then once we take the restaurant out and change it to retail, that will be reduced. I just don't know what the exact reduction is, so figure 4 or 5 spaces short, we will be.
Just checking right now. One of the last comments were about conditional use standards. I have the posting memo up. The board said they were okay with pile-up, so we just need to revise plans. Still TPW, so all the typical referrals still have to be done. I think we also do a fire marshal sign off for the overlook. I'm pretty sure I have a sign. I'll double check that though. If not, we'll refer to fire marshals. There's nothing major, I don't think, in terms of we're going to public hearing. We probably, I don't know if we have the secret scope on this, so that we might need to. Do we have the secret for this?
Then you don't have it yet, because
Okay.
we're just waiting for the latest plan.
So,
I'd just like to say something, okay? We met with architecture review and we revised our plans with their comments. And we have a meeting with them on the 28th, actually for both. On the backside, just to show them the brick and the limestone. And on this project, is to show them the revised plans based on their comments, as well as we're using brick, we're using hardy plank, and we're using limestone. And that's set for the 28th to get a final architecture review, okay? Everything else, I think, I'm ready for the public hearing, other than the comments from the engineer. So once I get a proposal for $5,000, that's what actually was 5,000. Yeah. I'm assuming it's what you guys are saying. I'll put up $5,000 and we'll proceed right away, just give me the proposal.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? All right, you good? Thank you.
Thanks very much.
We get any revisions in by 2 weeks before the hearing, correct?
yeah, so
Which would be
May 21st.
May.
Seven. Okay. Do we have, do you know, oh, so he's gonna check this schedule just to make sure. We might need a little.
No,
You need more time?
because of advertising.
Okay. We'll be advertising and mailing, so what was the June, it's early June, right? Isn't it June 4th, I think is the next one after that?
Oh, wait, so we can't have a public hearing anymore?
Because of public.
No, advertising.
June 18th.
June what?
June 18th.
Is the next planning board meeting? June 18th is your next one. Available. But if we have updates, I was saying, if we have updates by May, we can always bring them back. Like, if again, it's received at least enough time in advance, that's always a possibility, so just to address that.
So you bring us back in May and then have the hearing in June? Is that what you're
Yes, the
saying?
hearing will be in June, yeah, just because of the posting timeline.
Bring us back over May for any of the comments we get from whatever.
Yeah.
ARC.
Yeah, exactly, just as long as we have enough time to review, yeah, that would be.
And revisions to the plans and the
Got it.
follow-ups and the,
All right,
and Hayden would probably have to ask on this.
yeah.
Yeah, that's.
Hopefully we'll get them advanced if you do them now, you know?
That's right.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Folks.
Well, they're just screens, we have it planned. Thing on. Yeah, they got this very.
Okay.
Right, that's what I wanted to see. Marcus, would it be possible to see the southern elevation of that building?
It's like angled parking, right?
Well,
It's angled parking.
elevation, the side of the building.
Oh, sorry. So, no, that's it.
So then, so theoretically, that dark space that's there at the bottom of the building is gonna be grade. Everything below, so the windows themselves will be on grade?
I think, am I,
Apartments are full
so this,
down.
isn't this Main Street?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's Main Street,
And
yeah.
then that's,
That should be Walnut.
I think
right?
it
Well,
does
we're
slope down
basically
a little
looking
bit.
from
Yeah.
Paris
It
parking.
does slope.
yeah, but what I guess I meant was
What's
this
the
line
rate?
is,
That's a good question.
is at Main Street. So
Right.
if you're standing here,
Yeah.
Right. But then this grade is shown as flat where it may actually, I mean, the only concern I had is with regard to these windows here. But, yeah.
Well, Tara's customers will be shining right in.
well, no, we're
Be
gonna
some
have,
interesting late nights.
we're gonna have, I mean, I thought we required them to have,
There's gonna be a fence there, I thought.
Oh.
yeah, I
There was
thought we
something
had,
there.
and they have to
Yes.
have,
Planting and some,
Thank you.
yes.
Yes.
I don't
Right.
know how much the plantings are gonna block headlights.
yeah.
I think it was both proposed.
Wasn't there zero setback on the?
No, this one had a little bit. I forgot what it was.
Right.
There was a little setback here.
But I think if I may, if you were to require planting in there, you're putting some kind of fencing with the slats in there, the
Yeah.
plantings will then grow. So,
Oh.
because it's a narrow, it's not like it's 20 feet, it's only,
I thought we made them do something, I could have sworn we asked them to have some sort of,
yeah, that, I would like.
yeah.
I think you did. Yeah.
Well,
I have to go.
you know, the fencing with the black slats?
Yeah, but that's, you gotta move on to next. Oh, okay.
Sorry, we gotta go ahead.
The voice is supposed.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No,
No, you're not apologizing.
no, no.
It's your job.
You don't wait 35 go across the
No, I think we're doing,
I'm sorry.
open at.
Oh, no, 35 is. Well, this is next, but I don't know where they're here. I don't know where they're at.
You wanna just.
Show them all the one, what's it, 116?
Yeah, let's move ahead.
And it's 30.
Oh, it's 30 Jefferson. Then.
30 Jefferson. Sorry.
I guess it's also left.
Yeah, we can talk about it, but.
Good to see you.
Alright. So you have a memo on this, right?
Yes.
Input. I'm looking at this there.
Input.
Pull up a chair, Jim.
Yeah, Jim.
Yeah, I get some strong feelings about this one.
I heard a lot about you.
Oh, yeah, Leighton Bowles.
Yeah, Leighton's great.
Yeah, he's great.
I haven't met him in person.
I did 6 months. Yeah, you'll like it. More with me.
Okay. So maybe you can summarize the recommendation, or is it more than that?
Well, I guess I'll give a brief overview, kind of where we're at right now.
That's good.
So this application involves a decent amount of work, right? You're doing, it's obviously right, it's on 30 Jefferson Landing. It has the little corridor with Ellen Drive, which this is like the end of Ellen Drive, so it doesn't connect through all the way. There's actually a little walking path at the very end.
Both Jay Jackson, right? The two, Road Ellen and the other one. I don't know, the only road that's open is the one that goes past my house. Which is fine. It's been there 35 years. So, yeah. You have to deal with this guy driving past my house. But, right. No, I do. I won't kid. But yeah, and Ellen, as you know, and there's also actually a drop off. So you can't even if you open it up, you can't have a road there. Because it's about a 4-foot change in grade, between the existing Ellen and without doing some serious road work.
So yeah, so the project kind of involves a bit of a redesign of mostly the rear yard. They're going to be developing it's an 18-foot, a 36-foot pool. It's going to involve some regrading to the site. So I don't know if you noticed in that bottom. Oh, there you go.
This one's easier to run.
The proposed plan, right?
I think the other one's a little more complicated, but you can go from there. Just got a lot of stuff on it. You got it.
Yeah. Oh no, you're fine. You want to? Yeah.
No,
jump
you
in.
go. You go. And I didn't. I'll listen to your recommendations. I can chime in.
Yeah. So I guess yeah, Parker. If you want to show the proposed version of this, right? It's a pretty comprehensive plan. There's about 24 trees that are currently in the backyard. It also slopes down, which I believe is that.
So Ellen's on the right?
No, that's the back.
North's going down, so it's kind of
Upside
the southern, actually.
It's the south,
western
that's the southeast corner of the property, I
Currently
believe.
dips down.
Ellen is on the other side.
Wait.
Ellen's to the right.
To the
Yes.
right.
Yeah.
Is that what
The other
it
one
was?
in.
So it's like we're looking,
No, the pool's going the opposite corner.
That's okay. Yeah, that's the way it's
But the pool's in the opposite
That's
corner.
right, I have it now.
exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Ellen is on the right. Ellen's on the right.
Yeah.
Both pictures now.
Where's the pool? It's not in the
So-
southwest, it's in the southeast, is it?
Southwest.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
So if you go to the other page, I'll just explain something real quick. If you see, right there where your cursor is to the right a little bit, that's another retaining wall that comes down there. So the issue we're running into is if we were to put the pool in that flat area to the right there, we're gonna be restricted by that other retaining wall. And that left side of the yard, so it's the east side, essentially unusable. It's on a big slope that's overgrown with like non-landscaping trees. It's like maples and stuff that just grew over time. There's like stones that the previous owner left there that are like kind of buried, and it's just, as you can see, it's about a third of my yard. So what we wanted to do is take that small retaining wall, push it back to the property line, level out the whole thing, so that in that upper direct south part, we'd actually have room for the pool. And then the issue where we're running into is that we didn't realize Ellen Drive makes that side of our yard constitute like front yard, which changes the rules altogether. So after we got that nice, beautiful plan done, yeah, that's what we're.
So you're putting it in the.
It's gonna go in that back right
Yeah.
corner.
So technically it's
back
just
right
not
corner,
front yard.
so it's not on that virgin
Yeah, the
soil
front yard.
back left.
So the back right corner.
From this picture, back right, yeah, so southwest. So, which is the front yard. Which is
So it's
considered-
still gonna be, yeah.
It's considered the front yard, yes.
Yes. So I guess in terms of
It's a front yard in the street that's not open.
Right, exactly.
The only.
well, the street is, it is
It's
technically
open to
open.
that.
It's a pedestrian,
Yeah.
it's a pedestrian.
We're also the only driveway on that street.
Only driveway.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only vehicle use is for them to get out of their driveway, to get out to Jefferson.
Right. And the other issue is that I was actually unaware of this, but our fence is over the property line due to there's like
They're good.
there's like an 8 foot by 8 foot by 6 foot tall boulder that sits on the property line. It's also on a hill, so the guy who did my fence must have just, he didn't even really consult with me, he just kind of pushed it a few feet outside, so it is slightly outside on the Allen Drive side of the property.
You put that fence in?
Yeah. Yeah, just
Was it in the
we have
same
two
location
dogs.
as where it was before?
No, they didn't have a fence. Yeah, they had an electric fence that,
shrub,
Yeah, that's
a
what
lot
I,
of
yeah.
vegetation.
I would have sworn, I've
Yeah.
been walking past that house for 35 years.
Yeah.
Would have thought there was a
Couldn't
fence.
see it because
Yeah, yeah,
it was
right.
really
Yeah,
vegetated.
How many feet on village property is that fence?
it's about 4.5.
Oh, it's-
It's a very big right away.
So you can see right here, and if you zoom,
Yeah, it's
between
very
like kind
long.
of where your cursor is, like in from the property there, you'll see the boulder. I don't know if you can get into it, but
It's back
it's
right
pretty
there.
big. I have a picture on my phone, so that's up there.
So we need to address the fact that it's on.
Yeah.
Show you something.
Giant boulder.
Yeah,
And it's on a hill, so it's a little scenic.
so the only structure that's right away.
Yeah. But as far as like the property goes, there has been a couple trees that have fallen, branched. I maintain the property, I mulch it over there. Those shrubs and trees were there before I moved in, but I've been, they actually look a lot nicer now. I cleaned them up a bit. And I didn't even realize that part of my driveway, about, however many feet you can see there. I guess the stakes aren't in this picture, but is I guess the town's property, which I also maintain.
Is there
Most people.
Is there-
Landscaping right
You
away.
can see in the survey picture, you can see that front bed is technically.
Why
bisects
would,
like
why
the village
wouldn't
property.
we consider abandoning the southern part of Allen Drive?
We could.
I mean, just leave a walkway instead of a road. You don't really need a road.
not.
Unless there's some kind of emergency.
DPW might wanna open it up one day.
I don't know, when it was originally, the original Jefferson Landing subdivision, I don't know if it has, you know, if there's any, I don't know why they even did it, the way they did it.
There was
Yeah.
pushback between connecting the two communities.
Right. I remember when when we first became on the board with you guys 25 years ago, like, a couple of board members said, hey, you know, they were saying to me about it, you know.
Right.
You might wanna look into it, since I'm the only one that didn't.
Is the village maintaining
The road,
they don't do anything. They plow it?
They plow it, they rip up the grass, I fix it.
I know, but
They plow it.
They
your
don't plow
driveway,
it.
your
They sometimes
driveway
plow
is
it. We actually have to
on,
wave down the plows a lot, because we're like, hey, we're over here too.
like, if we abandon the road, then what would happen to his driveway?
Well,
You would get the half, that's it.
You would get the half.
Is there anybody across the street from Ellen?
Yeah, it's
that's
not-
So you'd have to,
That's why,
you'd have to split the road.
Right.
And then offer it to the landowner on that side.
That's
And
what's,
maybe-
you know, that's
Maybe keep an easement for a walkway.
McCrory.
yeah, what's her,
Right.
her dad is, what your village is.
But you would have to buy the road. They wouldn't give it to you, you'd have to pay for the fair market value themselves.
For half the road.
For half the road.
Well, in the past, they gave them a road. Because they did that on Westview.
But wouldn't
Yeah,
that like hold up this whole thing?
If the village, if it's, yeah, the highway superintendent would have to agree to surplus, and the village would have to agree to surplus, and then they would just, you could make an application for the event, and then the village would have to agree with it, and then, then you just get it. But yeah, I don't know.
But wouldn't we,
I mean, it's
wouldn't
cleaner
that hold
inside.
up this whole thing?
That's the current problem. How do you build this fence then?
The fence, yeah. It's not the first encroachment.
Yeah, we can't prove it.
Well, we talked about it, we talked a little bit, and I spoke, Dave and I have been talking to Dave a little bit about it as well. You know, we could enter into some sort of boundary line agreement with them, you know, if we could talk about that. I think Dave had concerns about using the fence, the existing fence as the fence,
As the pool.
as a required fence for the pool, so we could maybe work around that.
But why?
So their concern,
Yeah.
their concern was that so this is from, we talked to Marianne about this as well. Their concern was that if you rely on, say originally they were considering doing an encroachment easement to allow the fence to remain in its current location, just do an easement. But the concern was that if the fence to protect the pool is within the village right of way, we grant an easement for them, and God forbid something happens where.
Yeah, the fence fails at some
Oh.
point.
Exactly, and it's in a village
So
property.
You would have to put up another fence anyway,
Right.
so.
There is a secondary fence, it connects to that side, but it might be hard to see, but it does go around the pool, paved area of the pool, and then goes laterally to Ellen Drive, and then it would meet up with that.
So you have a fence
We're gonna have a fence around the pool.
around, that's
But I
gonna
don't-
be.
I mean, it would be redundant putting right next to that fence, but we could.
That would be.
Well, if you have a fence, as long as you have a fence that's
We have-
complying with state law as far as.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're
it's
just putting a
pretty
second
easy.
one internal just for kids and stuff.
Yeah, right. You want that anyway. Yeah, then we should be fine. Yeah, so we just have to work out, talk to the mayor and trustees as far as banning.
But-
Either, or at a minimum, maybe some type of boundary line agreement or easement or something.
Well, an easement, but then you'd still have to go for variances for front yard
Yeah.
Yes.
and all of that.
Yeah.
But that, I mean.
There's like two on my block that are like similar situations, so I
Yeah.
assume they got variances. I verbally spoke to the neighbors around.
Yeah, corner lots always have a problem.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're two corner
Two
lots.
corners.
yeah.
Road wouldn't have that problem.
I don't know if would I want to be responsible for the road though?
Wouldn't have a road.
Oh, it would become.
If
It would just be your driveway.
If we abandon it, you wouldn't have a.
Part of your pocket.
Yeah.
But like we get a lot of traffic through there, a lot of kids on bikes and stuff. Like,
Yeah.
would I be responsible if someone got hurt and they're on my property?
Well, then you could fence off your property.
Take it.
You know,
It'd just
essentially,
be half of the.
Yeah.
right. Unless the
more.
village wanted to keep some kind of out.
Right away. No, they
section,
definitely would want some sort of.
then that wouldn't be your responsibility.
It wouldn't make sense to close it off completely.
Yeah.
Village would want-
From what I'm understanding,
want the connection.
that conversation is much later down the road, because if we have that conversation now, then you can't do any of
You'll be
this.
in the pool for 3 years. Yeah.
So that perhaps is a conversation
Right.
to
Yeah,
have.
we'll
And
figure
you
out
can, you know, you can
interim.
consult the land use attorney and then decide after. But until you do that, it would be faster to get all the variances and still come up with some agreement. I'm assuming you could do the agreement about the fence.
So once I get the agreement, then I can pursue variance, or should I do it?
No, you could, yeah.
That's a damn.
No, we can work out, well,
So
while we're working on the agreement, you can apply for what you need for the variances. I wouldn't do both at the same time, you don't want to.
So that's the thing, is I didn't want to hold anyone up. I will say that the zoning board's policies, that if there's existing violations, they won't approve or review it, because they've done it in the past, but the goal is for them to push away from that, because they don't want to say they approve a survey and then there's a violation on it, and then.
So
We can speak with the main addresses, if we get a sense that they don't want to approve it, then we can communicate that to Mark and say this is going to be resolved. I don't want to show.
And the reason we brought it here is because there is planning board purview in this as well. The regrading over, technically I think it's around 4 feet.
It's right around there.
Triggers planning board review.
Yeah.
So, and all the tree clearing. So there is 24
Yeah.
feet removed.
Yeah.
There's
And a lot of impervious.
It might be better on you.
Yeah, so all that
That you
is,
could catch.
so I don't know if the planning board wants to give recommendations on like drainage, about maybe referral to the CAC, like our typical comments, like that's why we really brought them here today, was to at least get some things in motion.
Yeah.
On each side of it, unless you'd rather wait for the zoning board, but.
No, whatever you guys like need me to get started on, or just keep it going. If there's any drainage issues.
Sooner we need some drainage.
There's one in the back left corner on this picture behind where that says the swing set, which doesn't exist right now. And then there's another one in the northwest corner.
They're existing.
Right, no, that's gonna be put in.
Oh, okay.
There's one there, kind of the circle, like right above that pathway is a drain. And then I know the wall has, certain features that it was an architectural drawing for drainage, I think, on that one. So there's one there by the cursor and there's one in the back.
And then do you now have to provide with pools, do you actually have to provide a drainage for the backflow, or do you have to empty the pool, clean pool?
I think so.
Yeah, 'cause you can't, you're not supposed to have it go
It's
out to
charged. Yeah,
the street.
I think that's involved, there's also a pool permit, that's, I don't know if this came out with this or if it was.
That's building department. But yeah, that is something
There's
that's.
another permit with plans for like the specifics of the pool. This was like a landscape designer schematic of like that's where the pool's going, but the pool specific drainage is on a different application.
Okay, yeah, as far as I know, I think you have to now provide.
Yeah, that is in the pool one. This is just for trees and grading. So I think the pool specific drainage would be separate.
And what we typically do, like, so what they normally do in like bigger applications, they call it a comprehensive drainage plan. So that drainage plan will show drainage area calculations, and also include a bit of specifications. It's usually done by an engineer. They'll do a bit of specifications on all the drainage structures, and it's just to verify that the walls and any catch basins can manage all the stormwater on site. So that's the village code requirement.
Yeah.
That's, I don't know if the planning board typically wants to request it for this application, but that's usually, you know, it's, the other alternative is, well, it's in the board's I know it's a lot. I don't want to. I'm not saying we should. I'm just saying that's drainage plan, because there's retaining walls. There's.
I mean, it's not.
A lot more impervious.
I mean, well, without seeing what the soils were like underneath, I mean, I would say it's something you should do for your own sake.
Yeah, I don't.
It's not. I mean, your landscape architect could do the calculations.
Yeah.
And then put them on the plan. I mean, he's just trying to hold a 2-inch rainfall, 3-inch was getting off, and then,
Yeah.
make sure that your site can handle it.
Yeah.
You know, it's you're going through all this trouble anyway.
Exactly. No, Patricia Hopkins in front of this. But yeah, we're actually where that drain is now is where we collect water, just currently naturally. It's a kind of pools there. So
right.
I I don't like having that, and they're ripping up my lawn and sprinkler, so yeah, I'm just gonna, the drainage will definitely interest for me.
So where do we heading?
Two, I mean, you could do, I guess there's that request, there's also referrals, if you wanna refer to the tree committee, the CAC, you could have them take, or even erosion control, you could have, sorry, God, the commission,
Yeah.
I always mess it up, but they do great work, you could refer to those agencies, committees at least, just to get some comment from them. Maybe they have some recommendations about the drainage, or maybe about the plant species that could be provided. Beyond that, then there's just the zoning board. There are, I think right now, we have approximately 8 variances, or almost 8, required, so I don't know if we do concurrent review, or refer to the zoning board, it's another referral that could be made.
I don't know if
Only if they get
abandonment
the
is-
fence.
Is kind of driving everything, isn't it?
Well, I think,
Abandonment is-
I think they're gonna go
Yeah,
for,
well, the abandonment might be, if we just do something short of
Right.
boundary line agreement or something. We'll
So wait on that first
I'll talk to
before-
Dave about that.
Right. Yeah, if you can reach an agreement with the village
Yeah.
for.
but
Harmless location.
that said,
It's about the most harmless location of encroachment in the village that we have.
I'm not opposed to sending it to the zoning board now,
Right.
but you would, I mean, unless anyone else is, but you would probably need to wait for Jim to weigh in on, like, you don't wanna go to the zoning board until you have
Yeah, I
the
know.
easement or agreement.
Let me ask you something. How big of a deal would it be for you to move that fence?
So it hits that boulder,
I know.
so I would lose like another 5 feet, and then it also goes into more, that's a heavily wooded area, so I have to take down more trees, and it'd be on like a hill, so
Just saying.
it's possible, if it came to
wonder-
that, I would, or I
No,
would
it
actually
just might
bisect the
be
boulder
easier.
if possible.
Because everybody has landscaping in the right of ways, it's a fences.
Just think, you know, you gotta go
Yeah.
before, you gotta go to the trustees and.
Yeah.
It's, I don't know, man.
I'll talk to Dave and see if it's good assholes now.
Yeah.
As you go along.
That would be like, yeah, I would have to.
Beautiful house, beautiful spot.
I know, I know, yeah.
So I guess you have to weigh
Yeah,
how quickly you want
yeah.
this process.
We've said it's gonna happen in the fall,
That's
so
right.
we don't, it's no rush really.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if you can relocate that fence, it's gonna make things a lot easier for you.
We even take it down and just put more
Take it down,
plantings, yeah.
Yeah.
And then move the pool fence.
Yeah, the
more
fence for other
around.
reasons, you have to jump over.
Bring in the
Yeah.
fence.
Yeah,
And the electric fence does work.
I know.
But
If there's a way we can get,
Yeah.
those agreements.
Well, look
nice.
at that, we'll see.
Yeah.
If
I'm
not,
okay
we'll-
with it, I
we'll
guess.
just- Yeah.
It looks beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Grilled from,
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful.
So, just wait to hear which direction we're gonna go in, I guess.
well, I guess you wait. I think the thing that's driving you is the fence.
Yes,
So if you
yeah.
wanna keep the fence, you should try and figure out what that timeline would be,
Okay.
right? And then if that timeline sounds too long for you, then you might consider
Yeah.
doing the fence, and then can we agree that this can happen at staff level?
No, we have to make
Well,
we have
but
to make the
can't we-
referrals though for the ZBA, he's gonna need variances.
But can we refer it?
You can refer pending submission of, or pending, you can refer the application to the zoning board pending clarification regarding,
Yeah.
as verified by
Right.
staff or something.
Right.
Yeah. I'm not opposed to that.
That's my,
Saying
that
if
was
we
my
end
goal.
up, you know, if we can work out a way to keep the fence ready, if we don't deal with that.
Yeah, that's fine.
But I wouldn't hold up though.
Yeah.
Also should get CAC comments and tree.
Yeah, tree, and then.
Erosion control.
Yes.
Yeah, taking the trees down, you planting more.
It's gonna be a net positive for a number of trees.
Yeah, it's both.
But all these committees will be really helpful.
Okay.
Like it'll be,
They're great.
it's not gonna be it's not
No,
gonna be
yeah.
harder for you.
No, that's fine.
Yes. Thank you. Just these, paperwork. Yes.
Larry was here, but.
They must have went home.
So we have to.
You wanna do it at the end? Just 'cause they went home.
Talk about it without it.
Do you want to do that now, or do you want to wait, just, you want to do it at the end?
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
I know.
What, then? What do you know? What was that?
Well, my neighbor was, she concerned that we only
No, that's not, you know, the village works with that.
Yeah, they didn't want to.
They don't understand.
Oh, I don't know that.
Yeah, and if they're willing to, because like I said, they're basically abandoning any interest. They're not really, it's really not owned by this, always an issue, consent. You have a paper street, it's always that.
This is
Sustaining the street, sustaining, well, this one's the street, you're right, you're right.
We're gonna do it at the end, because the applicant's not here.
I seem to remember them taking it lower than it originally was.
Those chips, that's what you put down.
Yeah, probably. Go on for a second, I'll leave that, so.
So, where are we at with, apartments on ground floor, not on Main Street, North Country?
Well, you're lucky, because last time we determined you were above the first story, so you didn't, the conditional
Right,
use didn't
but
apply
that
to
was
you.
on facing Oakland, but I'm talking about the, side facing Walnut, that I removed those two apartments because it was, you know.
I see. Well, I guess based on tonight's determination, I don't know, that's a question for the board.
Well,
Potentially adding two more, right, so you would, so it's 18 units?
I mean, so I'm already, I think you're gonna know my position on this. I find it frustrating when you're gonna start with basically a clean slate and you're creating problems for yourself. You're already short on parking, you're needing all these variances, so the setbacks and the floor area ratio, all those things are supposed to limit how much you develop, and yet.
I'm under our floor area ratio significantly.
Oh, okay, I thought I saw something in
I
there
asked him to
that
clarify it,
was.
and then he
Oh, okay.
submitted a letter to me.
So
saying, "Oh, to the
it's
board."
like to add even more, like to add more apartments and be even more deficient parking. It's really a personal issue that I have, because I feel like if we're going to start from scratch, all of the regulations that we have are to have purposeful planned development instead of overly developing. And if we're always sending developers to go get these variances so that they don't have to have enough parking, so that they don't have to have the setbacks, that's where I'm getting that's why I'm a little hesitant on this, because we're already getting variances for payment in lieu of parking, right? And you're starting from scratch. So.
But besides that, the one variance I'm gonna need is just side yard setback, which, in regards to the existing building that's there, there's no setback. My neighbor's buildings are at 0 setback. And the requirement is 0 to 8 feet. I'm giving over 3 feet, divided, the build, about a little bit more than 1.5 feet on each side.
Chris, can you pull the mic up?
Oh, sorry. So, the one variance I'll need is, less than 5 feet of, setback, relief. And, for floor area ratio, I have the numbers. The plan will be updated, accordingly, but, the site is, the entire site is 15,370 square feet. The FAR allows for 2 times that, which is 30,740 square feet, and my total development is 19,147 square feet.
I misunderstood.
Okay, no,
I was asking.
I didn't either.
Yeah, that's
I just emailed my architect and,
It was the 15th yesterday.
So, I got clarification on that. In regards to, moving forward, I know I'm gonna have to be referred to the zoning board for that. I know, as what was in the letter I received yesterday, you guys, declaring yourselves lead agency, all that stuff that moves us forward. I'm very interested in that. And, it's, basically a lot of the questions that were asked in the letter I received, I can't give an answer until I know my apartment count, like Department of Health. I don't know flow rates. I don't know anything until I know, and that's gonna be determined by if I get my variance or not for side yard setback. Because if I have to shrink the building, it's gonna impact the amount of apartments and all that. So that's where we are.
So is it no longer, what, you used to be able to build property line to property line, and that's no longer the case?
So the district that he's in is the C2PO overlay district. So the C2 allows property line to property line. The C2PO requires a setback. I think it's 8 feet combined. So it's just a different overlay district. It imagines more offices, a little bit more residential in character. It's not as intense development as the C2 allows. It's a little less. It's a small block. It's only a few lots that are really in it, but that's why the side yards here apply.
So we should assume the agency was do that.
Yeah, that's the biggest.
I'll make a motion to assume lead agency.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And you're saying you can't move forward until you determine.
Because he is.
Because that'll impact his apartment, and that impacts.
Okay.
Everything else that was highlighted in the letter that it's saying my site plan is missing.
Right.
There was notes in there about the septic, whether, not, where it's gonna go out of the building, either out the back on Walnut or out the front on Oakland. And, I've spoken with that agency, and I have 2 options. I can, where I can connect to sewer. So until I know my flow rates, it determines, going out Walnut will require me to pump to a manhole that is above my grade. Going out going out Oakland will allow me to gravity feed. But again, without knowing my apartment count, what dictates flow rates is the apartment count and square footage, and all that is determined by the zoning board.
Okay. You didn't need anything from us.
No, the only thing that was in the letter I received yesterday was that I was able to answer was the floor area ratio, which we conformed with completely. Everything else in there that the site plan is deficient on is, there's some stuff with lighting and landscape that, you know, again, it's, will be addressed once I know what my, footprint of my building is.
And you can work on the staging, the construction staging and demolition plan.
Yeah, this building is, just to address that, just because, you know, there's always questions about that, the impact to the community. Obviously, the building that's there is gonna have to be demolished. It's a pretty standard, one-story, building that, you know, would take, you know, 3-4 days to demolish and remove from site, without impact to neighbors or anything, because I have enough of a parking lot to handle any kind of, you know, trucks and whatnot to handle all that on site. And then the construction of the building that we're planning, the building was drawn to be modular. And I've met with and spoken with modular companies. It would be about 30 boxes, if you will. I already have a staging area worked out. The Greek Orthodox Church on St. Pastor Road will allow me to stage there, and they can basically, if you envision Legos, you know, they can set 6 boxes a day. So it would take about a week or so to put the building together. And honestly, that would have the least, doing it that way, would have the least impact on the community. Be a crane and a truck bringing the boxes from the staging area back and forth. And over a week, less than a week, I was told 5-6 days, they could have the building constructed.
What about, sorry, just a question, I know it's early on. What about the bridge?
Yeah,
That
I was
bridge
just,
that-
you can't go over the bridge with a truck.
Right.
3-ton
Yeah,
limit.
you'd have to run it down
You
the
go
other
around.
direction towards,
Yeah. A lot of that is, you know, I guess, yeah, where sheep pasture
right.
turns, yeah, I mean.
You have to go by Beauvais shop and then, yeah.
Go around and.
Might be some other places where you could stage.
What's
It might be easier. Might be some other places.
I've looked at, it really depends on when all this comes into play, and I've also considered reaching out to Stoller, that has their development, like they have a massive parking lot there. If I could rent the corner of their parking lot, it would be, you know, it's possible, but they started, but there's a question in terms of, you know, where they're gonna be construction-wise, and a year from now or whenever I'm gonna be ready to go. So, other than that, to address any of the other points in that letter, you know, the site plan, once again, I have my zoning variance, the site plan will be finalized with everything that you're asking for. And at that point, I plan to be back in front of you with a complete site plan with everything that's required, the landscaping, the lighting, the sewer, everything.
The ARC's coming back with comments?
Yes. Yeah, we met with them, what day was it, Tuesday?
Yes.
Just met with them.
I met with them on Tuesday, and I have some pretty pictures to show you that we've worked on. And their comments were so far, I haven't received their official comments, but the conversation that we had was basically, if you look at these areas here where we have the setbacks and the, what do we call these, parapet walls?
Yeah, parapets,
Okay. They felt it was a little too busy and they wanted it minimized. Okay, that's easy. They did like the brick, and they did like the siding. One of the comments was instead of white, because it was very kind of bold, to soften it. And I showed them an option with a light gray, and they liked that. The other comment that came back was in regards to the, the different material here on the foundation. We have like a stone and a brick. they just wanted to see, you know, they wanted more clarification on that. I was telling them it would probably be cultured stone on the foundation and then brick above. Other than that, there was no, you know.
Everything was positive.
Yeah, everything was positive. They're gonna send back comments, we'll adjust accordingly. This is Oakland, this is the front of the building. And the only comment they had was kind of removing this detail here so that it's less busy. And which is fine, I'm not married to it. And then over here, the comment was, because this area, this is the back, this is Walnut, and this area right here, I'm sorry, brother. This area here is kind of like a terrace for these two apartments. So they were asking for this to be like fencing material that matches the other, you know, so that's an easy, you know, and that's probably what it would be anyway, instead of a wall, a fence that's to code, you know, for so nobody falls off the roof, and that's always a good thing. And then they liked
Or maybe a combination.
yeah, exactly, wall, fence, exactly.
Yeah.
And that was said. And then the other thing they liked was over the window, what do we call these?
What?
Oh.
They're just ornamental type stuff. And they wanted to see, over the windows, we have like a soldier course of brick, and they, you know, possibly continuing this detail over these windows, but it was minor tweaks. One of the other comments that came back was about the column that was here, which, you know, it's these are two separate apartment balconies, so that's why there's going to be kind of like a divider there. So there's really no way around that. And they weren't, you know, it wouldn't, you know, make it symmetrical and whatnot. And other than that, the ARC had they were very positive in the look of the building and all of that.
I'm definitely in favor of sending it to PETA for formal review.
Yeah.
But we can't do it
I
yet.
don't think we're there yet.
No, because he has to get through ZBA.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the
After.
plans we have are pretty preliminary in nature
Okay.
right now for engineering. There's one more referral though that I wanted to mention really quick. We talked about the major public benefits, right? Last time we had this discussion about the story about grade point and how we talked to the building inspector and ended up being, the board seemed to agree that this would constitute a 4-story building. The one thing is that obviously we know within the C2 district there's the requirement for major public amenity, but there is a provision there which is a little unique, that is if your lot is under 20,000 square feet, instead of providing a major public amenity, it's at a fee that's established by the Board of Trustees. We've never actually had it before, so I think a potential referral to the Board of Trustees to establish a fee for a public amenity in this case would be what would be a next step. I think that could happen concurrent to the zoning board. I don't think, but it's just, yeah, it was a little unique.
Well, they did that many years ago, that there would be a fee, and it would be a recreational fee.
Well, that's still a thing too. There's a parkland fee. There's a.
In addition to the public amenity?
Yeah, they're two separate fees.
Okay.
I mean, it probably needs to figure out what his yield is before you look at what the public benefit fee might be, but.
It's basically the two apartments that I moved from the lower level to what we're calling the 4th level. Again, you know, I feel, as was said earlier in the previous work session, where other things were approved and then now you're looking at things differently, that's where I fall in. You know, 1 North was approved. It's the same situation. The property slopes off. There's amenity space on the lower level, and then 3 stores above it. we're gonna call it a fourth floor. The only, there's a couple issues with calling that a fourth floor, that hurt me. One is, okay, I gotta pay the Board of Trustees something, which I don't know what that is, we'll see. But the other one is the New York State requires now any fourth floor, four-story building to supply solar. And I do, I'm considering doing something with a roof deck on this, and that would impact that. And the cost of that and everything, it's just, I'm already at a situation where it's, bordering on being feasible. So that's, that was my issue, is that like that other building that was just approved wasn't called a four-story. Now I'm being held to a different light than something that was already approved. And I understand that the ask from the Board of Trustees isn't going to be I was very concerned with it, and then after some conversations, I'm not that concerned with in terms of what they're going to extract for that quote-unquote, that fee for the quote-unquote fourth floor. But, again, it's been established. I'm not going to beat that dead horse, but I'm hoping that the Board of Trustees looks at it and says, wow, he's being held to a different light than this other building was, so they're going to go easy on me in that sense. But then I still have the solar requirement, which I'm still getting an idea of what exactly that means. So that's where we're at. So it would be 2 referrals, one for the zoning board and one for the Board of Trustees. Either way, whatever happens with, to answer your question, whatever happens with the zoning board, it still would be the same thing on the fourth floor. It's just would be, still be 2 units, but it wouldn't be good. Where the zoning could impact is like the bump outs on the side, which would affect that area. So.
Governor Hogan had made a statement last month, it was in the news day, that she's cutting back on some of these energy requirements because she just sees that it's costing a lot and it's not working now.
Yeah.
So I don't know where you stand with that particular.
Right, and I was just actually speaking with the attorney for one of the other projects that was in front of you tonight, and one of the requirements that was put through in a similar fashion was these buildings have to be 100% electric.
Right.
And no gas heat. And, they want heat pumps. Sounds great, okay, but in reality, if you know anything about HVAC, a heat pump for an apartment like this, the system itself, you're lucky if you get 7 to 10 years out of them. And that's for everybody. Gas, you'll get 25 or so, 30 years. They don't factor that in. So again, all that's being held up in litigation. So now I get my permit tomorrow or 6 months from now, I can heat with gas so the whole thing with the solar, again, that's also a question is like, is that gonna, so I'm not sweating that, we call it we've already established, you guys have established, and I'm not gonna fight that, it's a 4-story building. It's just understand what it's doing, what the ramifications of that are.
Do we need to make a motion for the referral or just?
No, I think we just agree that referral. Cindy writes all that, right?
Yes.
For both.
Yes.
I mean, I write it.
Yes.
Yes.
So we're, and then, once that, I'll be back in front of you guys, and hopefully things will, start progressing a little faster at that point. But, I thank you all for your time, and any questions or?
I move it along.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Only dinner. That's so long. Yes. Yes.
doing?
How are you?
What happened?
Unfortunately, skiing accident.
Oh.
Sorry.
Almost done. Almost done.
Sounds fun.
And then,
That was
It
good.
was.
That was the bad news. The good news is the DEC said they don't have any restrictions. Correct.
Yay.
That's the good news.
Yeah. Took a while.
Yeah.
Finally.
Yeah.
So, where do we go from here? Ready to,
Use the microphone.
oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
We lost an extra minute. Yeah, but I guess I'll. Sure. Well, okay, so you might remember last time we went pretty detailed. It was a while ago, right? This was December. We went through a pretty detailed overview of all the potential environmental impacts of this project. We did EIF Part 2. We identified some potential impacts, whether they were small, there's a few that are large to moderate impacts. One of those being potential impacts to wetlands, which obviously now have since been resolved per the DEC. So what I have in your packets tonight is the draft attachment for the Part 3 as well as the formal Part 3. Essentially, I'll try to keep it as brief as possible. This document has been updated to reflect the findings of the board during the prior meeting, right? We talked about impacts to slopes, impacts to drainage, impacts to land disturbance, neighborhood properties, a lot, and had questions about whether or not engineering referral was required. The planning board found during prior meeting that engineering review for this particular project wasn't really necessary, given the plans were pretty comprehensive, and I know the board members reviewed it and found it to be acceptable. So this is basically almost cut and paste from what was reviewed last time, with the exception of now Section 3 has been revised, which is impacts on surface water, to reflect the findings of the DEC. And there's a paragraph in there talking about the letter, which was dated March 25th, saying that the proposed work's not within jurisdiction. Of course, they still have any oversight on if there is going to be any changes that would be within that jurisdiction. But ultimately, this now recognizes that there's unlikely to be any potential impact for disturbance to surface waters as part of the project. So the way that obviously this usually works is that we sign these at Part 3 at the meeting. I don't know if the board wants to go through each point or has a fair enough recollection from the last meeting.
I read it, I have no argument.
Yeah.
Is there anything that they want to speak to?
No, I think, right, the biggest concerns, I think, from what we've heard, right, last time were, the potential of the clearing that's happened on the property, the slopes, right, this has steep slopes on the property, there is a little bit of disturbance going in it. It was found during prior reviews that the house is being sited as far away as possible from the steep sloped areas. Also, that the residence is being proposed kind of where it is too, because there is the septic system that's within the front. It's kind of the northwestern yard in the front, so there's some leveling that's required. There's several retaining walls proposed with drainage infrastructure that was found to be adequate during prior reviews. We talk about fire emergency access, right? There was as a discussion last time, but most of the impacts were found to be no or small impact, or obviously no impact. So I'm not personally. I think staff was comfortable with this proceeding towards what would be the next step would be declaring the negative declaration as part of this meeting, which we would have the formal negative declaration at the next available meeting on potential resolution. I just know it's time the project currently on hold pending.
We're going on over a year. Is that right?
The court date. So, which is this month. It's April 28th. So we would bring this back on May 21st would be the final day. Much as that.
So we're saying we have to wait until they have the
That's what I was advised in speaking with building council.
Oh.
Sorry.
Yeah,
I wish.
the whole reason why I took the trees down because, if I hadn't have done that, I'd be waiting till December. Yeah. So it's like a rock and a hard place.
Yeah. No, I understand. Yeah. I know. Look, we've been trying. Obviously, you've been through a lot. I think from our end, I think
This financially, it's been extremely strange for us. So. Go ahead. next month is, so what happens next then? So next month would be the next meeting where we say that it's okay?
Draft resolution, yep, they review the resolution, as long as they find it acceptable. There'd also be a negative declaration, established for the project, which that draft will be reviewed during that meeting as well. So I just don't have to draft it first today, but we've done it before with the resolution day. That would, conditions of approval will probably be similar to, ensuring, recognizing the DEC's jurisdiction, right? No, it's a condition that there is no impacts to the wetland areas, that all work will be 100 feet away.
So, one question.
Yes.
Right? So, the clearing that I did was back in January.
Yes.
I didn't get a notice until April about this thing. So, I mean, there's a large delay there, so is there any leniency where we can say, we take care of what, everything in the application is acceptable as of now, correct? So, is there a way we can say, pending the payment of the fine for premature clearing, your application is approved, this way I don't have to come back.
I mean,
And we can cut it to the, I pay the fine and permit.
the problem is we don't have a draft resolution prepared for tonight because of this. It was because of this specific thing. And the issue is on our end is that it's approving a project with an open violation. I was told there was multiple attempts to contact you by.
I answered Josephine.
Yes. No. I meant I guess there was from I don't know how. I'm unfortunately not a code enforcement officer. I don't know the formal process, but I guess whoever normally does the notices of your court hearing date. There was a few set last month, and then there was one was delayed for some right. There was a bit of a.
So I moved from Queens. Initially, I had the application listed as my Queens address, and then when I moved out here, I contacted the office and had a new address where I'm in East End. And because the letter never got to my new address, now it's delayed. Now I have to go to a hearing to delay my project on another month, and it's pretty frustrating.
Yeah.
There's nothing we can do.
I mean,
I mean,
not
it's
tonight,
not
unfortunately,
tonight.
because we've got a recommendation from council that says we should.
Okay.
Approve a project with an active.
Right.
Okay, so next steps would be draft resolution. May project gets approval and basically permits are issued.
Yeah, I would just check with obviously because you need a building permit. Once you have the resolution, then just I know it's been a while since you submitted the building permit documentation. Make sure it's all updated. Yeah, I would say check with Josephine. That helps us as much as possible. But that would be really the next steps. There's also tree clearing which is issued by that's us. So that's me. I'll be on the tree clearing part of it, and then Josephine will be on the building part of it. And yeah, that would be.
Okay.
Sorry, I wish I
We feel your pain.
I feel. Trust me. I know.
Well, I think the frustrating part is that the ticket was issued 3 months late. It's actually when I got the mail, it was after I contacted you guys with no jurisdiction. So it's like I had completed everything and then I got it.
There's some issues on codes. I'm not sure the whole. I'm sorry.
All right. Thank you.
Well, see you next month.
For Jeff Ferry, site plan.
See you too.
So last time we met, we were talking about the lane widening East Broadway, and you had asked us to give us a little better overview where we're going.
Yes.
As far as phases of our overall plan, we're probably at phase 3 of 6, something like that. First phase was rebuilding the dock, which we did about 10 years ago now. disperse the people out of the present ferry terminal and build the building across the street. East Ferry office, which was the jewelry store, is just about complete. We should have that inspected in 1 or 2 weeks. We'll start moving the people out, and then we'll be looking at redoing the ferry terminal itself. The site plan I gave you, and one of the things we really looked at when we, I mean, there's many factors in this, don't get me wrong, but the major factor was the traffic flow, how we could better increase traffic flow for not only us, but for Port Jeff as well. And that includes getting the cars off of East Broadway in a little quicker manner. The blue line shows the incoming cars. The issue we run into now with the way the west slip, which is the slip to the left, is set up that you have to go around the building onto the dock area and then out. And it's very difficult to work. We wind up losing probably 25% of our staging area if we go that route. So we wind up using the east slip, which is the right-handed slip. So now you can see the blue line of cars coming in. If we're using the east slip, that yellow line moves over to that side, and you have that intersection. So I know I talk to residents a lot, and the big thing is cars going up East Broadway. And honestly, that is, from what we can see, the major cause, because they have to hold the cars coming into the lot while they allow cars to get out. This plan obviously changes that. Cars coming in will no longer intercept the cars leaving.
Okay, so does that mean that you're not going to use the eastern dock anymore?
Well, we will. It's not complete. What this will do will, like times that are really busy, that's where we will work out. And of course, it's weather related as well, right? If we have a strong easterly wind, right, they won't want to use the western slip. So this factor, but the overall plan and stops that intersection of cars, like I said, and the traffic issues we have on East Broadway, I think will be really addressed by this. That's our thinking. And then with this present project, the widening, and we're looking at, I think it's 18 inches that we want to go. And it's, if you look at East Broadway, I don't know if you guys drive over there, there's like this little crook in the road. And what happens is cars will get jammed up there. And this will just give us enough room where it kind of straightens that out. And we when we started looking at how we were going to work East Ferry office, which was the old jewelry store, Steve Gallagher was down, and we walked through it with him, and he agreed with us. We're reversing the flow in East Ferry so that the entrance will be on that lower right-hand side, and the exit will be onto East Broadway. But what we did is we made it almost like a merge, so you have to go east. You can't cut back and cross. The other big problem we have is cars attempting to make U-turns on East Broadway. And we had brought this up with Steve as well, and we said, if we can get, the village had put the yellow barriers in, and we wound up putting orange ones in, which are, temporary. The yellow ones are into the road. But the cars will still, so, the further up we can get, kind of alleviates that. And then, like I said, with the little extra distance, it just makes that road much more manageable. We did scale it back. We originally had talked about going up to Danforth's entrance. We don't think we have to do that. As you said, we're looking for staging area. We're not looking for staging area. What we're looking to do is ease that knot right at the entrance. And we think this will do that. The other thing is the pedestrians. The way we have it operating now, the entrance, the pickup area is really on the north side of that island, and we have signs for that. course, everybody uses, the town parking lot, which they're not too thrilled about. But with the building, the way we have it, we're trying to direct that more out to where the pickup area will be in our lot. Not on the street, but in our lot, on that section, right up here. And let me just show you quick, so you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So the red is the pedestrian walkway, and the cars for pickup should come in here and then out. So that's the idea.
Fine.
Yeah. Is it a perfect solution? No, but we really think it's the best solution. It segregates the cars and the pedestrians, except for the one crossing area. So the best of all possible worlds.
So this is in conjunction with building a narrower building on the.
Right. So
what's the timetable for that?
I'm sorry.
What's the timetable for that?
Like I said, we're looking at January 27th, demolishing this. And really what we want to do, the problem we ran into the other two buildings was utilities. We were waiting for sewer hookup on the one. PSEG wanted to change the transformer on the jewelry store. That took forever. So what I said to Mr. Hall, I said, I want to have the utilities set, where they're going, what they're going to do. And then we're thinking either we'll be doing like a prefab, but nice building where it comes in sections, or where the walls and trusses are all pre-built, so the building will fall fast. Obviously, the shorter for us, the better. We will have to have temporary bathrooms and temporary waiting area and whatnot. But like I said, with East Ferry office now, and if you get a chance, go by tomorrow, you can see where we that lane going off onto East Broadway, we channeled it. So you can't make a turn into that lot anymore, which was a big traffic jam up going easterly. It was a hard turn. There was a big rock by the
make a
jewelry store.
right into the jewelry store building anymore. That's the ferry building.
Yeah, no, you won't be able to make a right there anymore. And like I said, the way we did the curving, it's like, it's obvious. You can't make a right there. And the entrance will be, we'll use the entrance, which will be up in the back, which is over here. Right, so these cars will exit, and they'll have to go that way.
I had a quick question, I can't find it, but I read somewhere that so because you're shrinking the building, the ferry building itself, some of your concessions are going to be on Beach Street?
No, so the present ferry terminal, which
I meant
don't hold me to this.
storing of the concessions.
Concessions is run out of Enterprise Drive, which is up off Holst Road.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like concessions, food services run out of up there. They have a delivery van that brings the stuff down.
Okay, so there's nothing over on Beach Street? Okay.
Yeah. Kind of, sort of. So the buildings, the present ferry terminal, I would say, believe it or not, is crammed with probably 50% storage, which includes consumables for the boats, and stuff that we really need to have on hand, batteries, big batteries for the engines and whatnot. So there's a lot of stuff there that we need on a routine basis to keep the boats going. The Coast Guard doesn't want us not to have this equipment on board if it fails. We have, my office is jam-packed with electronics, my phone also, of course. You know, so we were outgrowing that building. Like I said, probably 50% of it is storage over there. So if I'm gonna say 50 by 60 building, right? 2 stories, so that's 66,000 square feet, right? So, you know, we're looking at building warehouse over on the Beach Street property, which will allow us to keep our spare props, batteries, all that kind of stuff, which will still be close enough. If we need to get it, we can get it. But no, food service is a different animal.
Yeah, 'cause again, just want a master plan.
And,
Love to see all this and how it would work and
honestly, we have Murphy over there, Seacoast, who does the moorings for the village, and that's fine. We can do our warehouse, and whether he uses some of that or not. But like I said, it'll allow us to clean up the dock across the street where nothing is over there anymore. Right now, we have the tool shed over there. We wind up having some spares for stuff and whatnot. And like I said, that will all move over to the street.
So the next plans will be sequentially for the work that's gonna start in January for this smaller building and
Yeah, so, Bjornby EAB Architecture is working on that. We have a couple drafts of what we're gonna do. Obviously, you can kind of see our style, New England style. We'll keep the same, the building at Beach Street, we're a little more open to. I kind of like the idea of doing something along the village center. Like the old shed type building, but something we can discuss about. But we did come up with the preliminary, at least idea. We have 2 of them, I think.
what is this?
The warehouse.
Oh, okay. Neat.
Well, that was another one. But, like I said, we have equipment over there already. We've been storing stuff, like all the folks, spirit, all the storage and whatnot. So this will clean up that lot as well.
yeah. I don't know if GPS still, let's say you're in Seacoast and you're heading east on 25 acres. GPS tell you to just go down to East Broadway, make a left turn and go into the dock? I mean, it doesn't.
No, it makes you go around.
Does it make you go
I
around?
think I'm pretty.
That's.
Are you checking it? I'm pretty certain. Am I wrong?
Well, go ahead.
I'll check it. Yeah.
The Jive, the CEO of the, he's the one who said, yeah, Fred said that they were trying to get in touch with Google to try and make it that it forced you around.
Oh, as far,
Yeah.
making that left. He says that, I couldn't swear to it. I don't not believe him.
You should go around.
Yeah, okay.
It does work. It does make you go around.
What is that, Google?
It's Google.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it makes you go around. So.
Waze.
Oh, Waze. I don't
Oh,
know.
no.
Just trying to
Waze
do it.
was bought by Google. So
Makes you
they're the same company.
the fifth season.
Yeah, I know.
There used to be a Marine cop that would stand over there and hand out U-turn tickets. Because there was a sign there, and he retired, so the enforcement has gotten a little less. But, I mean, it happens. We obviously try to discourage it. Like I said, best thing we could do is put the cones up the road to try and discourage it.
So what do we need to do for the road widening?
So the road widening itself, we were basically of the opinion it's almost ready for final action. They submitted documentation regarding traffic control. They submitted, gave a narrative about it. They clarified. I don't think that's the report for me, unfortunately. But the only thing I just wanted to mention was the easement. We have a draft easement agreement.
Draft easement. We hired Eric Churches, who's up the street.
Okay.
And I believe he drafted it and sent it to the school concern.
Yes. Yeah. So that's something that we just gotta
Hey,
verify,
hang
which
around.
could be a condition.
I will say too, like we're doing work now over at East Ferry office, and Don Spence is the contractor for this other work as well. He's supposed to be down tomorrow. I think early next week we're gonna take a serious look. I know we have to move these one storm drain back. So before we jump in, I think I'm gonna need an open road permit anyway, right?
Yes, so it's still very DPW.
So, until we have all the ducks in a row, we won't pull the trigger on this project. And unless we can do it relatively soon, then we'll probably hold off to the fall.
You gotta go.
Do we have to do anything?
Yeah, so, well, there would be, right, they gave a cost estimate last time of $75,000, right, for the work. So doing setting a performance bond, setting a site inspection fee would be next steps for the board. Other than that, I don't think we were really against final action on the project. We just have to direct a resolution. That's really where we're at.
Which we would do for next month.
Yeah, we may. But I know I spoke with Greg Munson. Greg Munson was, again, DPW was pretty okay with this. You know, we visited the site and everything.
I know Don Spence has been meeting with those guys and they've been talking about it. So, like I say, you know, we don't want to mess down there either. Obviously, it's at our entrance, so we'll make sure what we do before we start doing.
All right.
Thank you all. Good to see you. When we have the ferry terminal stuff, I'll be in. We'll go start going over that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for sticking around.
Yeah.
All right, back to 35 Hillcrest.
Yeah. Yeah, so what is the performance bond? I'm trying to remember. It's 5%.
5% of the cost estimate.
It's of the cost estimate. So
Yeah.
75,000, it'll be 5%.
Do we have a motion percentage? Well, if you set the two fees, then we can have a direct resolution.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's 3750 would be the performance bond.
Okay.
And then the site inspection fee is 0.0. So it's even. Yeah, it's not much. Oh, no, I'm sorry. It's
minimum?
Sorry, it's based on all the site work. So this would be the site work. So I don't know,
Like a base fee.
here's a minimum. Yeah, I have the code for me. I'm sorry. I should have had this ready.
Yeah.
There is. I'm sorry. I don't have that.
You should get a motion to set the performance bond and site inspection fee in accordance with
The code, I guess.
calculations
Yeah.
required
I
by.
so motion.
Thank you.
I second.
All in favor? Bob?
I second.
You get that, Sydney?
So it's Laura and Lee for both.
Yeah, we'll send you
Both
that
fees?
amount. Yeah, so both fees. So in accordance with those code requirements, then we'll calculate it.
Okay, we'll calculate it ourselves. Okay.
So then there's 35 Hillcrest, which he has emailed me. So
Me too.
Did he say I couldn't wait any longer?
what?
Did he say I couldn't?
Yeah, he had to go, but he said he's watching. So
Okay.
is watching. So I guess I'll give you a brief summary of this project. This is a project that's currently actually before the Zoning Board of Appeals for several variances. It is they would like to, right now it's got a single family residence. They want to propose several additions to both add a second story right to the home. They're adding a front and rear porch, all of which either encroach into total side yard or side yard setbacks. The house is already currently pre-existing, not within setbacks from the front yard, so they are expanding it. But the reason this is truly before the planning board tonight is one of it is as part of the zoning board's coordinated review. This is a type 1 action under secret for, once again, retaining walls over 6 feet in height and the property being consistent of slopes, more than 30% of the property being consistent of slopes 20% or greater. So this is one the zoning board has declared an intent for lead agency status. We initiated the letter today, actually, we're a little behind.
Do you want the staff report? Yeah.
Yeah, I'll take the staff report.
So the retaining wall is 6 feet?
It's
Because-
just at 6. Well, it's on the same slopes, you add them up.
Well, so this is 68,
Yeah.
whatever the 168, and then this is 164, right? So is this at 168? Like
Well,
it's
what's
only
the next
4
line?
feet.
Well, if you look, so if you go to the side of the house, I have pictures. I should have.
Like it looks like it's only 4 feet,
I have pictures of it.
unless I can't read a thing.
They give you this.
Totally.
They give you the. So he got it here. They give you the elevations, the height, and the north in the top corner.
Yeah.
It ends up being just under it, but you add in this. The problem is there's 2 retaining walls on top of each other on the. I guess it's the left-hand side of the screen. It's next to the house. And I was out there with the applicant.
So
And
weird.
it's very weird. I know.
Like it doesn't look like there's 6 feet.
But I'm trying to. I have pictures of
Sorry.
it. No, it's okay. I have pictures of it in the file, but like when you're on site, you can see it. There's one
Okay.
portion of the wall that does exceed it. Again, I don't. It's unfortunate because we almost thought they actually didn't qualify it during the meeting. But then when we visited on site, we noticed that it's combined height. It used to be a slope that went down from the house, and now
That's
it's.
why I was confused.
But so that's kind of why it's here. It's really those walls were built without the planning board approval. So it's here to legalize the walls that are built and tree clearing. There's been about 1,800 square feet of tree clearing that occurred.
How long ago did they build them?
20 few years, recent. It's within the last couple of years.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think they realized it required planning board at the time. So.
And you say just a section of the wall is 6 feet?
Yes. Well, particularly that. Yeah, where Parker's highlighting that section. When you add up the two heights of them, it's like a.
Oh, you're adding them to the.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there it's wall.
Break wall.
And
Yeah.
you're adding those together.
Yeah, that's how the code reads. You got to add them. Unfortunately, you have to add the height on a single slope. So.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've gotten plans, right? Those are the wall cross sections we've received. The commentary that we had in the staff report, the first one was of course about the potential drainage impacts. This is actually right next to the neighboring property line. It does require variances to remain where it currently is. In the past, what the applicant described to me is that it flows from, there was a hill there, so it flowed down from the property, and the neighbor actually has a little existing catch basin that it was flowing into the catch basin. They designed the walls so the walls are almost like the material that seeps through the drainage, so it does seep out of the walls, but there is no catch basins in the driveway or on the site, so we recommended potential drainage plan with calculations just to ensure that it's on site and fully contained. It's something we haven't received yet, but just to, again, I understand the way it's set up, it doesn't seem to have major impacts, but again, it isn't technically a neighbor's catch basin, it's not their own. So.
Right.
That was our first comment. The other one had to do with the tree clearing. Right, there was some substantial tree clearing 1,800 square feet of tree clearing that occurred. It's at the very crest of the steep sloped area. It's kind of where we have a plan showing it, but it's where Parker's highlighting. It's a circle. Right. They did build a shed there. That shed's actually real. It currently doesn't conform to the code. They are going to move it so it conforms to setbacks. That's
an aerial. Is it?
Yeah. What do you
Yeah, I think it's too many trees in the way.
Trees.
Yes.
Staff report.
Yeah.
I know, but it's small.
In a little, yeah.
I think the street view would help too. We get that later.
Oh, this isn't on
Oh, yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah, you can see the shed and the clearing.
Yeah.
So you kind of see where those walls are. It's at the end of the driveway. That's kind of where all the walls are right now.
They run north-south walls?
Parallel with the driveway.
Parallel with the driveway, yeah. So they almost wrap around the whole end of it.
Right.
And when you say there's a catch basin on the neighbor's property, so does the driveway slope down to the house?
It does slope
like
down.
it
Yes,
slopes
it
down.
does slope down.
So we're asking that they put some sort of catch basin where the sloping, because right now it's sloping into their neighbors.
That's what it kind of runs from where the house, basically where the house line is, down the property. The catch basin's going to be, I guess it's flowing from the west to the east. It kind of flows that direction, if that makes sense. Catch basin's kind of there. You can see it, that's exactly what it is. Yeah, so it's, well, basically, I'm not saying they have to do catch basins in the driveway. It's just more showing that the drainage is being contained.
Mm-hmm.
I was there on site during a rainy day, and it looked fine to me. But I just proving that with the calculations is what.
Yeah, they need to contain their own.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we so I mean there's twofold to this part, right? Technically, because this is right now it's in the zoning board's hands. It was going to come back to you eventually for formal approval of the clearing and the walls.
So we needed to give any input for they declared lead agency, right?
Yes. So input on that, and then if you have any recommendations for the zoning board, such as a drainage plan, we did recommend a slope analysis potentially, because just to verify that claim about this portion of the site that's greater than 20%, because right now it's our estimate based on the survey. I think that would be something that we originally recommended in the staff
And
report.
then for the zoning board to look at the I can't talk anymore.
Yeah. You're right. They're doing the environmental review.
Right, thank you.
Yes.
For them to look at, because there was mention, those aren't as built, that was the design, so it'd be nice, do they need to see what it actually is built?
Yeah, we've been as-built
So are
survey.
there drainage holes, are there, right, they would do that?
Engineer drawings.
Yes.
Is that the word?
Yeah.
Did we,
So we have,
You have an as-built?
yeah, so we have an as-built survey.
Right.
And we have, if you go to the drainage plans were prepared by an engineer, but they're kind of more of a generic schematic. I think we don't have a formal plan when they originally did it. And I think he said that was part of the problem. I don't know if it was a formal plan, but having someone make that, I think we did request someone, the board might want to have someone certify that, or recommend to the zoning board that they certify it was built in accordance with proper procedures, right?
yeah,
I think that was all, if they have any construction photographs, I don't know that they exist, but that's another recommendation we had, just to make sure it was all done appropriately without taking the ball, you know?
right.
Yeah.
Alright, so you're gonna put a list of comments together for the zoning board?
Yeah, I mean, if you agree with all those points, I'll just
Yeah.
summarize them. I'll distribute a draft. Okay, yeah. So then we'll give it to the zoning board. But the biggest question is, do you have any objection to them being the lead agency on this? Because they're doing all the variances.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. There you go. So that's it for now.
Now, are they expecting that by April 30th?
No. So I already said to them the earliest is May, even
Okay.
if so. The applicant's aware of that. So.
Cool.
All right. So I have one last thing before we close, if that's okay. Yeah, that's it. Not an application, but just general policy procedure kind of thing.
Sure.
So I just want to make a comment quick just for you all, and kind of asking for your input and your support. I think, as you know, we're kind of working on with pretty limited staff in recent months, and we've been trying to. I think we're having a difficult time trying to accommodate the workload of this on top of everything else, right? This is probably the busiest our department's ever been. We're involved with everything, the planning board, the zoning board. We're doing work with engineering now. We're doing work with emergency management. We're kind of constantly being pushed in a lot of directions. And what my request was is we've talked about in the past doing policies such as completeness checks, such as limiting staff reports, right? And in addition to potentially reducing the amount of applications on one meeting night, what we wanted to ask is what I would like to propose, at least in England, is just with those completeness checks, we want to have it where we have a 2-week period at least just to review the submission to make sure they have everything they need to make sure it's complete. The hardest part for us is that people oftentimes submit their applications 2 weeks before the meeting and then be like, oh, we're going to be on, and we have been accommodating it, but it's not really sustainable for us. It's been really difficult, you know. And I hate to say it in this nature. Like again, there's always exceptions. We don't want to cause any unnecessary delays, but we're also in a process where we're trying to figure out our policies and procedures so we can better support you going forward. So you're not getting staff reports the day of the meeting, and you know what I mean.
So when I was director of the Merrimack for a year, we had a finite cutoff where 2 weeks before the meeting was the deadline. If an applicant submitted something the day after, I'm sorry, it's not going to be considered for that meeting. You have to wait for the following.
We need more than 2 weeks.
We need more time, is what we're saying. We need
Make it 3 weeks.
So-
yeah, three.
Yeah, what is your recommendation? What do you think?
So I mean, Cindy, please speak. I want Cindy to talk.
No, well, because I do take them and do the completeness reviews. I think what Dan's trying to say is that the 2-week cutoff is okay for active applications where we ask them to submit subliminal documentation on things, like applications that we've already heard, and you're asking for more submission.
Right.
You have to get it in 2 weeks before the meeting.
Okay.
Well,
I
actually want to raise that.
I will say that we
Yeah.
had, for a new application, it was 3 weeks.
But new applications, we need a lot more time than that, because sometimes it can take 1 to 2 weeks just to clarify the motion. I get an application, I don't have a deed, now there goes 2 weeks,
Right.
I'm trying to clarify the ownership or contract and just updating the system and getting the paperwork in order can take a month, seriously, to get it right. And a lot of times we try to be nice and get it through and bring it to you and it's still incomplete. And that's what's causing all the delays, so it's mostly on my end, because I'm taking and doing the completeness checks, and I'm asking for more time.
Well, it's not just you.
Yeah.
It's not just you.
At least a month.
Well, it's not me, but-
Okay, yeah, I mean, right now, we have a draft agenda for your May and June calendar already. Okay, so if anything brand new comes in that we've never seen, I'm seriously saying July, if it's brand new.
Let me ask you a question.
And we're also trying to do some pre-subs in the office, which sometimes is good and sometimes it's bad, but it does help us clarify with the applicant exactly what we need before they submit.
Okay.
So that it kind of comes in a little more complete if they've already met with us, just as like a pre-sub, like just a preliminary sketch plan that we can go over the criteria of what we want to see in an application. But that's taking up a lot of time.
If the new applicant gets you information a month ahead of time, right, do you need another deadline after that month where you've had a little bit of time to look and you go, hey, it's not complete, but you could get me X, Y, and Z 2 weeks ahead of this?
Yes.
Would that, or if they aren't complete, then forget it. You're not
Depends
even.
on what they're missing and
Oh.
how intense the application
Well,
is.
so that's what I want to speak to for a second. I'm just wondering if there's a way that we scale the necessary time based on the
Yes.
scope of the application.
Exactly.
Have some kind of, rubric or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Say,
so
okay,
it
if it's a
covers-
tree clearing application.
Exactly.
We can
Yeah.
do it
Yes.
in 3 weeks.
Yes.
If it's a major application, we need 6 weeks.
We have a lot.
No, seriously,
No,
something
you're right.
like
and
that
we do try to
would
set
work.
that, but it's not working.
Well, but we establish, some rules and stick
I like that.
I like that idea. Like
A sliding scale.
A sliding scale based on the
You have
criteria.
simple, you have simple applications that,
We do.
and they do it.
Yeah, because I mean,
So
look,
maybe think about how you can break it out.
Commercial versus residential, one of them.
That could be one way, but a commercial.
But then
could
you,
be something
then you go down there
simple too.
from that.
It
I mean,
depends.
residential could be pretty complex too.
Yes, it
Yeah.
can be.
Well, yeah.
But I bet you could come up with something, and that way, it's a, simple thing.
Do you
to
want
go
something
faster.
now, though, that we just give a hard and fast rule now, and then you can adjust it?
Could do that.
So we say 4 weeks minimum
New
for new applications.
2 weeks for
Then
supplemental.
as you're going through things, you can go, for
It could
some
be a little
applications,
yeah.
you can create what Lee's talking about.
Right.
But for now, we need to give you some relief.
Yes.
It's fine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
I mean, we've talked about this forever, right? I completely
Exactly.
agree. It's really you guys bending over
Yeah.
and trying your utmost to get these things done quickly. I have no problem.
Yeah.
Over a month.
And be firm with the applicants, and say, I can't put this on in a week, I'm sorry, you have to wait
Yeah.
5 weeks for the next one.
Our hardest part is
Well, I
that
think
we've
we
gotten,
do that.
they will go around, like,
Right,
we'll say
that's
this, and they go around us.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they'll go to other people and be like, oh, well, this one said I'm on, and then we have to accommodate, and we're like, oh, okay, you talk to this person, it becomes like it's very,
Right. If you have it in writing, nobody can really, it's a.
that's what I'm holding, yeah.
Yeah.
I just wanted to, you guys, again, it's not, you guys have been nothing but great for us. It's just, we want to be better for you, and it's been, it's just hard for us when we're kind of on an island, I think.
I'm constantly calling Ray. I don't know if you guys know that, but
Oh, yeah?
he's the big.
Yeah.
Well, Dan was
Yeah, but he's the Rickendorf, man of the year. or
If he
whatever
would
it was
just
last
stay,
Yeah,
sit with me.
You should have said that first, honestly.
He's earned it.
Yeah, yeah. I meant to put the message on it tonight to congratulate you again.
Yeah, we should
You
have.
see the signs in a plaque?
Congratulations! Very nice.
That plaque I got.
Nice.
Yeah, it was.
Weighed about 20 pounds.
Yeah.
Wow.
Doreen said she's gonna use it as a murder weapon.
Yeah. That should carry him for another 10 years as chair.
And Zena gave a great presentation. Oh,
She really did.
Everything she said was
Very good. She's a good.
Presentation is good.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, she's good.
She had humor.
Oh, she's great. She could do like stand up.
Yeah.
You all set with that then?
Yeah, as long as I mean, again, I really appreciate it. I don't.
No.
I just.
Okay, so we have a
Yeah.
passive action
Oh,
started.
and the last question we had too is just, and just for now, we want to limit the what we call major applications to only 2 a meeting. So tonight we had, I think, like 4.
Yeah.
I don't. Again, it's another
Again,
That's
I'm not
fine.
opposed to having a work session.
an extra.
I'm
only
not
concern-
opposed to that.
My only concern is that we also accommodate the zoning board.
Right.
And I don't know. Technically, I'm the only planner. State partners are planning aid. It's kind of just it's hard to accommodate both boards.
Okay.
So because we're gonna have a similar conversation with them. They're not as intensive. They have like 1 or 2 zoning board a month.
Yeah, but now they're gonna be busy.
Yeah, well, with all the planning board.
What's the
referrals.
plan to replace Andy as the director?
So
Yeah, do some.
the position's open at the moment. I don't know if they can speak on it. If you watch the board of trustees meetings, there's some conversations regarding that position. I don't know if that's gonna happen.
They kept the position though, right?
It's
In the budget, like
it is currently there. I don't know.
They're really thinking of utilizing that money to offset the increase in taxes.
Yeah.
Because right now, it looks like it's 41%, but there's a lot of, they have a long road to walk.
Can we operate without
As long as I
Well, I
keep
mean-
calling right every day.
Well,
I mean, it seems a
Yeah,
little.
I be a little forceful and push back and say, I can't do everything.
I wanted to.
Yeah.
I was unfortunately away in Florida when that happened.
How does that work at the county? Yeah.
Actually, at the county, you can say, I have a civil service title, it says this, it doesn't say that, I'm sorry.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're, I assume you're civil service, but if you're not civil service, you know, it becomes, I mean, like when I used to have to go back into the county, you know, the heads and say, I need X, Y, Z.
Actually, they would, if you can justify the need, you often support it.
Wow.
Not me, but.
Dan's got 24 hours a day, come on.
Yeah,
You don't have to
sleeping.
sleep or anything, right?
Yeah. I mean, again, I wanted to speak to my department, because, I mean, if you watch it, they talked a lot about us, about the time we're doing, how much, the overtime, and I completely understand it, I do think we need to support it.
They want you to do work without getting the overtime?
Well, that's the thing, is we can't stay,
Right.
yeah, we can't be here as late, and there are budgetary, we're trying to be conscious of the budgetary constraints on top of being the busiest this department has ever been.
And the main concern is to me, is the amount of work and the quality of work. Not that you would do anything against that, but you've got so much stuff going on.
Missing things.
Yeah, or there's that potential.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you are, just saying
Set a deadline, a schedule. Look at what, again, the Village of Mamaroneck does. They have, if you have a meeting, March 1st is the planning board meeting. New applications have to be in by February 7th, the month before, or February 14th if it's a returning application.
Do you have that?
It's on the
That's what I
website.
was saying, because that would be,
Yeah.
I like that idea, because then we can make that public too. And be like, this is your deadline.
And we get something in, and a week before, and my land use secretary is very, very steadfast. I'm sorry, you missed the deadline, we'll put it for the next one, you have to wait 5 weeks.
Right.
Yeah.
They would hand it, I'll go to a trustee.
So,
Do what you want.
okay, this may be completely off base, but since a lot of these projects were referring to HADF anyway, is there a way of having that stage done before? So that takes a lot of the burden off of you having to seriously review everything. Wouldn't it be better if HADF?
Well, that's
The code reads as referred by the.
apply to the planning board, so it doesn't go
But,
before you to
look
refer
at
it.
what Chris said. Chris said that, he has some, depending on what zoning says, he can't go forward with things. So I think if we refer to data, we're jumping the gun.
That's the
I just am trying to make trying to ease the burden
Well, it
on
does
my
help,
staff.
like Mather
If we're going to
Hospital.
ask for it.
Yeah, I mean, no, like, for example, the DRA, the first thing we came to you before, we have a few comments, but could you please refer this? And that's,
Yeah.
like, there's times that's been really helpful for us.
Okay.
But like you said, it's a little, like Barbara said, it's a little difficult sometimes. Like,
Okay.
But I agree.
Because
It's
if
a-
you kept the gun and just
You're right.
boomerang.
Yeah.
You can't do it, you can't do it all the time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No, thank you. No, I
No, we appreciate the work.
Yeah.
No, thank you for being supportive of that. But
Coming up on 4 hours.
yeah, I just want to bring it.
No, I'm glad that you did that. Better to bring it and get some feedback than.
All right,
Thank you.
I motion we adjourn.
Yeah.
I'll second that.
Oh.
I'm gonna write a, letter over to the board trustees saying that we are all in favor of, expanding the board to 7 members.
Sure.
And, asking that they change that section of the code that basically has this number of members.
Right.
Listed as one of the sections, so.
Okay.
Yeah, well, the state law allows up to 7. State law.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
I
village,
agree.
Maine State Village and the town both allow 7, up to 7 members.
Okay, I motion we adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, that's wrong.
It's 9:59.
Oh,
Yeah.
we're under 4 hours.
Thank you.
I got a question.
Yeah.
I